John DeLynn. It is September 27th, 2021. And today we are broadcasting and live streaming from the Mormon Stories podcast studios here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I'm really excited for today's episode. Super excited. Today we are interviewing Thomas and Sierra Stokes. Hey guys, welcome to the studio.
Hey,
Hello.
good to be here.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Going very good. Yeah.
Good to have you.
Thanks.
You guys may be wondering, who are these people? So basically, one of the ways that we find people to interview on Mormon Stories podcast these days is through TikTok. It's not the only way, but it's one of the ways. And the other day, I was kind of browsing through Mormon and ex-Mormon TikTok, and I saw this darling TikTok of Thomas and Sierra kind of singing and dancing and announcing maybe a couple new songs that Thomas has released as a musician. So I reached out to them. They were interested. And what I thought would be super fun to do, today's episode is around the idea of healing through a Mormon faith crisis through music, because Thomas Stokes is a musician and he is recently releasing an EP, which I learned is a sort of like a small album of like 2 or 3 songs. And so what I thought would be really fun to do, something, we did this with Jesse Funk a little bit. We've done this in the past with like Sarah Sample or Angela So for others, is to have a musician on who can interweave some of the songs into the epic multi-hour Mormon Stories podcast episode. So this episode would stand on its own because Thomas and Sierra have their own really cool story about both being raised in different ways in the Mormon faith. Thomas serving a mission, and then Sierra maybe being a less orthodox Mormon growing up as a Mormon teen, and then them finding each other, falling in love, but also early in their relationship, Thomas having to deal with some questions or struggles about the faith while he's at BYU, and then them dealing with their marriage, and do they get married in the temple? How do they manage Thomas's faith crisis? And then, there's a mixed faith element in this story. And then there's kind of the faith crisis full on and how they resolved it, all accompanied by fun, interesting, cool music to help tell the story. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We are live streaming, and we welcome all you guys on the YouTube channel for those of you who can join us here. And that's what you're in store for today, and it's going to be really good. So Thomas and Sierra, what did I leave out?
I think you nailed everything. That was
I
pretty
think
good.
that covers it. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Should we do it?
Let's go.
Okay. All right. So here we are, and it's time to jump in. I mean, is there anything you want to say at the outset about your music or your TikTok or any of that?
I just want to say that I did not imagine that my TikTok would grow like it did. The ex-Mormon community is so awesome. Love you guys.
Very supportive.
Very supportive. You all know who you are. And so thank you for this
What's your
opportunity.
TikTok?
My TikTok is big.crick.music.
Okay, and you've been doing songs there for a while, right?
Yeah, I started I want to say last October. I started doing hymn parodies, which I was very scared to do.
I remember those. And it's kind of grown from there.
Yeah, I've done some other content on there as well, but yeah, it took off.
Big Crick music.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's see. Let's start with Thomas, your Mormon story.
Yep.
And what we'll do is we'll bounce back and forth. So we'll do Thomas, then we'll do Sierra, and bounce back and forth during different kind of timelines. We'll have parallel timelines until the timelines merge.
Yes.
Okay, so Thomas, where does your Mormon story begin?
I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Kind of a weird place for a Mormon to be born, but it's because my dad was in the Air Force. He was a pilot. He flew A-10s. I don't know if you're familiar with that airplane. It's pretty cool.
Is that a cargo plane?
It's close air support. It means it kills tanks and things on the ground.
Flies close to the ground.
Flies super close to the ground.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. So that was his job for, I want to say 27 years. He was, So growing up, we moved around a ton. I was born in Fayetteville, but I've been all over the country as well as some cool places outside of the country as well. So that definitely played a huge factor in the way I was raised, always changing. You had to be ready to adapt, make new friends, be social. It was a lot of people, when I tell them that, they're like, oh, that must be so hard. But for me, it was honestly, I loved being an Air Force brat. I loved moving.
And I feel like it played into like he said, having to adapt. I think that was really good because a lot of the times you'll find, especially in Utah, there's definitely this bubble, right? And people, if you're born and raised, you don't leave that bubble. That bubble never pops. So I think what kept Thomas, obviously he's a TBM and we'll get into that, but all through his childhood, he was very relaxed and accepting of other people because that's how he needed to make friends, was to not be in that bubble because, I mean, I don't want to take away from you here, but Mormonism wasn't like the biggest religion that he experienced outside of his family as far as friends.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
So let's paint. I always like to paint kind of the Mormon picture. So it's military family.
Yes.
Your dad's a pilot in the Air Force, right?
Yes.
And you're moving around a lot. So what was the Mormon environment like in your home? How many siblings? Was there family meeting? Was there scripture study? Were your parents devout? Were they strict? Was it laxed? Paint them, from like age 0 to like age 12. Paint the picture of how Mormonism shaped your family.
It was about as ideal as it could have been. We did family prayers every night, even a lot of mornings we did family prayers as well. Family scripture study every night, family home evening, and this is all with my dad having a high demanding job. Like he wouldn't always be home, but we made it work. They were strict, but I never felt like I was oppressed or anything. I was super happy. I was okay with the way they were raising me, and in many ways still am. I think they're amazing parents, and I love them very much. We were a tight-knit family, and not only were we a tight-knit family, but the Air Force combined with the church makes it an even tighter community. Everyone, wherever we went, our wards were always really close because we were all going through the same thing. A lot of the times, the military families tend to be in the same wards because they live all like on base or all kind of in the same area. So the Air Force and Mormon community is very close. Like I said, it was super ideal. Scriptures. Let's see if I'm forgetting anything. We never ever missed church. Very rarely, if we were traveling, maybe we missed it. Kept the Sabbath day holy. We never bought on Sundays. We never went anywhere. Like as perfect as we could have been without being like super crazy about it. I wouldn't call us extreme or anything. We just did what we were supposed to.
Okay. And was it fun?
For the most part, yeah. I had a good experience in the church, which I'm grateful that I didn't have to go through anything too traumatic directly related with the church. But I know that's a privilege. I was lucky to not have to deal with anything too bad. But yeah, I loved it. I loved the church. I was all in.
What were your favorite parts of being a Mormon growing up as a kid?
I loved the uniqueness of it. I felt like, the whole choice generation, it was special to me. I felt special. It was
How
good.
so?
It was good knowing that we had the truth, that I knew exactly where I was going to go when I died.
What were the pieces of the truth that were really important?
Eternal families was huge.
Your family would last forever?
Yeah.
Other people's wouldn't, but yours would. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, there's actually, that just brought a memory up of primary songs, like were huge for me because from an early age I was into music, and I had one of my favorite ones was "Families Can Be Together Forever." One of my favorite ones. I had many, and my dad always, to this day, will always bring up the way I sang it at the very end. I couldn't say my R's, And I would always say, the Lord has shown me how I can. And that, like, even though that's just a funny story that we even bring up to this day, that dynamic just resonated with me throughout my whole life. Like, this song means everything to me. The church means everything to me. And I loved it. I felt unique. I felt like God, loved me.
Other favorite primary songs?
When I'm Baptized, big one. The Nephi's.
What'd you like about those?
The melody of When I'm Baptized is beautiful. It's so good.
When Jesus Christ was... wait.
I love to look for rainbows whenever there is rain. Yeah.
I think that's a crowd favorite.
That is a crowd favorite. Everyone says that. Yeah.
Be as clean
It's a really
as
pretty
the
melody.
tide after rain.
And then Nephi's Courage. That was a big one.
Well, sing that one.
The Lord commanded Nephi to
go and get
the plates
from the wicked Laban outside the city gates. Laban and Lemuel were both afraid to try, but Nephi was courageous, and this was his reply.
You still going? Okay.
Yeah, and then he chops Laban's head off.
Oh, yeah, totally fine. We'll just omit that.
It's a good childhood story.
I was always like super kind of gung-ho and kind of a class clown. I feel like I've chilled out. But like during primary, I was so intense singing that song. At the end, it would be like, I know the Lord commands the way he wants me to obey. Yeah. And I'd like do, yeah. And I'd like, in the middle of primary, I'd be like super animated and like, yeah, I was very.
What about Scripture
You
Power?
were all in.
Do you remember Scripture
Yeah,
Power?
that one, actually, I didn't sing that one until I was older.
Power.
Is that a newer one?
I don't know.
I think it's newer because I didn't hear that one until we were in Korea. And I was a little older, but I still liked it, because everyone knows.
Keeps me safe from sin.
Yeah, classic.
All right. Yeah, man. The primary songs were huge for me.
Yes.
And they still are.
Absolutely.
Like I'm sure I can sing 50 of them and love them all.
Yeah.
And I think your TikTok really, we were shocked by how many people, the most therapeutic hymns that he would make parodies out of were the primary songs, because people just held them so close to their heart their entire lives. And then all of a sudden it wasn't true. And you realized that you were taught from a very young age this like indoctrination.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the primary songs are a really big hit on Thomas's TikTok, because everybody's like, thank you for rewriting this so that it can still be special to me, but it's not
without
the same
the brainwashing.
lyrics. Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what else about your upbringing?
Let's see. Am I missing something? I think music, going back to music, I started piano at 7, quickly picked up the bass about a year later. Music was always very important to me.
At what age you pick up the bass?
8.
Whoa, you're playing bass guitar at 8?
It was literally taller than me.
What made you want, so like a stand-up bass?
No,
You're
electric
like
guitar.
Sting?
I was short. I still am.
So a bass guitar.
Bass guitar, yeah.
What would make so were you into like rock music? What would make an 8-year-old want to play the bass guitar of all things?
My brother, he played the guitar, and so he was like, dude, we got to start a band. You got to choose your instrument. And he was like,
at 8 years old.
He was 13 and I was 8, and I wanted to play the drums at first, but then I don't know what made me change my mind, but I changed my mind, wanted to play the bass. And so my brother, who me and him still play music together, and he's pretty good at the guitar, and he's got a great voice. And so me and him have always been very close. And the music, he's the one that got me into rock. He introduced me to Weezer when I was like 7. And
it's like 90s rock, basically?
Yeah, 90s rock. And our taste in music has evolved a little bit more since then, but I remember just jamming out to Weezer with him from a very early age.
Okay,
yeah.
Playing bass.
And you just kept
Playing
growing
bass.
from there.
Yeah.
Like you're very musically inclined.
Thank you.
I like to brag on you. You are.
Okay, so you're playing piano, you say?
Piano and bass.
Bass.
Later on, I picked up the trombone because of 101 Dalmatians. I don't know if you remember that scene when he's playing the trombone upstairs. And then, so I wanted to play trombone, and then I was like, wait, well, why don't I learn how to play the drums and the trumpet? And I was in marching band in 9th grade. I played the mellophone, picked up the ukulele,
Penny whistle.
the penny whistle, if that counts.
This reminds me of Prince. I don't know if you've ever heard of Prince. I'm
yeah.
super old, but Prince played like 15 instruments or 20.
He was probably a
instruments or
lot better at all those instruments than I am. I just dabble in most of those,
Okay.
but I play the guitar and piano mostly.
Okay.
I would say.
All right.
Yeah.
So church and music.
Church and music, huge. I would say that took up most of my life all the way up till, honestly, like high school. My life just revolved around the church and music. There were a few, I don't know if you want to hear about any negative things that I had with the church.
Yeah, good and bad. Yeah.
Good and bad? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Honestly,
And let's follow the timeline. Like sometimes we want to jump ahead and talk about how we think about things now or like looking back. Let's not do that. Let's just follow the timeline as if you're in that experience as you're telling the story.
Yeah,
Does that make
for
sense?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was very devout in the church, but like Cece said, being outside of the Mormon bubble, I tried to stay away from being that weird Mormon kid. And so I tried to be very normal, but that often led to me kind of wanting to hide my beliefs from my friends. Not a ton, but it definitely happened. I remember in 7th grade, I was embarrassed to tell one of my best friends about the first vision. He asked about it even, and he was like, so, how did this happen? And I was like, oh, well, this might sound kind of weird, but Joseph Smith, he prayed in the woods and asked God what church was true. And then God appeared to him, and he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird, though. Don't worry about it. And there were moments like that throughout my upbringing where I didn't really want to share a ton.
You had that self-awareness.
That it was a little weird. It was a little out there. And then like other things that happened to me, I was always trying to be good about my standards, but it was kind of hard because, for example, one time I was at a sleepover and everyone wanted to watch 300, the movie, which was rated R, and there's no way I was going to watch that. And there were like 12 kids there, and I was like, guys, we shouldn't watch that because it's rated R. And they were like, okay, we're going to watch it. And so I went into the other room by myself and watched, of all movies, I picked Rush Hour 3, which isn't even a very appropriate movie to begin with.
You watched alone?
I watched it alone, and then the host, Big Brother, came in and watched it with me. I think it was a pity watch.
Yeah.
He felt bad for me because I was all alone. And so
sad.
I watched it alone because I was trying to be good, but it was kind of not a great experience for me.
Those moments, I had moments like that.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
moments are, on the one hand, kind of isolating and they make you sad and feel weird and awkward. Isn't there also a degree to which you kind of feel like you're being valiant and it's like,
Yes.
You're so
right?
proud of yourself for
That is
doing
huge.
it,
I was like,
right?
I know I'm going to get blessed for this. I know I'm doing the right thing. And so part of me was like, this sucks. But the other part of me was like, my dad would be so proud.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Okay. So where
I'm
to
trying
go
to
from
think
there?
Any other?
You can hold the outline if it's easier for you to see.
Oh, yeah,
you
for
hold
sure.
it.
Any other experiences? Some other bad things hard things.
Yeah.
I gave a Book of Mormon away to a kid in
Around what grade?
9th grade. I was in
Okay,
marching
so you're
band.
now in high school.
I was first
In
chair.
what state? You're still
Georgia.
in Georgia? Okay.
Yeah, I was in Georgia at this
Okay.
point. I was first chair in concert band, and the guy next to me, he was we were talking, and he was like, "Hey, like, what's up? I hear you're Mormon." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You want a Book of Mormon?" He goes, "Sure." So I went through all this trouble. I went and got a Book of Mormon. I was so excited. I was going to do missionary work, and then he gave it back to me. I don't think he gave it back to me. I asked him about it, and he was like, "Oh, it was garbage." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "How? What do you mean?" The fact that someone could think it was garbage.
Do you think he read it?
I don't know.
He
I
read
think he
some of
told
it?
me he read the first couple pages, and it was garbage. And I was like, the fact that it would be garbage to someone, that it wouldn't resonate with someone, was totally foreign to me, completely foreign.
And did it make you wonder about the church, or did you just
Nope.
say, what a bad friend or what a bad guy? Or...
I was like, he must just not have the Spirit. He just must have not had an open mind. And that's okay. I mean, everyone's different. That was the Bible Belt. I experienced a lot of people criticize the church in the Bible Belt, but that just strengthened my conviction.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, it is. It totally.
Adversity in a high demand religion strengthens
Oh,
faith.
yeah. Oh, we have stories about that. Another thing, I almost got a first girlfriend once in high school, but then she was like, "I'm sorry, I don't date Mormons. I only date Christians." And that was a blow to my heart. I was like, "No, we are Christians."
That happened to me in Texas.
Did it
Same thing.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can't date you. I'm Christian.
Exactly. And again, heartbreaking, but
Yeah.
but I felt reaffirmed. I was like, it's okay. I'm doing this for God. It's a sacrifice. I probably wasn't going to marry her anyway, and it's fine. But I had experiences like that. Nothing like traumatizing or like super super negative. Just hard things that I went through, like any Mormon kid would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything else about your high school years that with faith, like seminary, your faith, your testimony? We always talk about if there was any shame that was part of that. Anything you want to talk about there?
I was super good. I was as good as I could have been. In seminary, I got up for early morning seminary and studied the scriptures all the time. I felt really good about that. This is actually an interesting concept that I'm sure we'll get into later, but there are actually a lot of memories that have been blocked in from before my mission that I don't remember. There's a lot of empty space there that we can go into later, but I think it was because of some trauma that happened later on in life. But we'll get there. No worries. And
you want to talk about the military community at all?
It was really cool when we did get the chance to live on base in Hawaii, in Korea. I graduated high school in Hawaii. I was in middle school in Korea. When we lived on base, it was a really tight-knit community. My parents actually gave us a lot of freedom because we could just roam with our friends on base, go to the base exchange is what it was called. It was like the mall of the base where you did all your shopping. Go to the movies on base, roam the streets late at night. My dad was gone a decent amount. He was in Iraq for a year while we were in Hawaii, my sophomore and junior year, like half and half. So that was hard. It was always hard to have him gone. Oh, I forgot. I was actually a very important part of being in the military is how much I did look up to my dad. I wanted to be just like him. I wanted to be a pilot, and I wanted to fly A-10s just like he did.
Wow.
And so being raised in the military was really important in that regards. I ended up not being able to become a pilot though because I have bad eyesight, I have asthma, and to top it all off, I have vertigo, which not a good combination to be a pilot. No,
not going to work. So you mentioned, so in your outline, you've got the song "The Couch" that you wanted to play, and then also you mentioned things like the Mormon military community. You got some stories there, and also struggles being in the church.
Yeah. So I can
go in whatever order you want.
Yeah, I'll play the couch in a second. I did forget about the one thing about the Mormon military community is that we were, especially in Korea, we were so close. There was about 100 people in our branch, and it was family because we would be gone, like husbands would be gone, and so you would have wives and children that needed taken care of.
In the ward?
In the ward, yeah. And they would come back, and of course it would be fine. But there was so much adversity that comes with being a military family. Throw the church on top of that, and you got a safety net, a really good community so that everyone takes care of everyone. I didn't know about any. I'm sure there were problems, but as a kid, I didn't see them. But one experience that kind of reminds me of how close everyone was every Christmas Eve, my family would go out for fast food. That's our tradition, still is. And we invited the whole branch to come to the food court with us on Christmas Eve. And we thought maybe a family or two would show up. Literally, the whole branch showed up. There were over 100 people in this tiny food court, and we got all the tables and lined them up banquet style and just had a big fast food feast. And it was like, to this day, those memories were really special for me because it was such a unique experience. I feel like it would have been a lot different in Utah, but I wasn't raised in Utah, and so it was a really positive experience for me.
I relate to that because you know everyone,
Yeah.
you know these 50 families or whatever, and you know people's names, and you're all there, and you're celebrating stuff together, and it just feels good to feel like you have a tribe, right? I mean, I think we're wired to be tribal.
Oh yeah, all humans are. I think that's very accurate. Yeah.
What are coffee brownies? What is that?
That was just that was another funny story that I feel like maybe if this happened in another place, it would have been more of a scandal. But people were chill. They were chill Mormons in that community. So we were at a award function, and this lady who was like kind of the funny mom.
She's new too, right?
To the church?
To the community.
Or yeah, I think maybe I think she had just moved in. Anyway, she made these awesome brownies, and the primary kids ate them up like that, like super fast, and everyone's like, these are the best brownies ever. And then we noticed the kids started like going nuts, like crazy, and off the wall. And we were like, what the heck? And we were like, sister, I don't know if names are appropriate, but Sister Blank, what did you put in those brownies? And she was like, oh, this, that, and some coffee. We're like, coffee? Like you
not coffee.
Not coffee. And she's like, "Oh, it's all right. It cooks out, doesn't it?" Like it's alcohol, you know. And we're like, "Yeah, that's not how
like
that
the
works."
caffeine cooks out.
I know, right? The caffeine cooks out. It's totally fine. But it was just like, but instead of us like freaking out, we all just laughed our heads off, and it was just it was family.
Again, I don't think that bubble was there,
No,
which
it
was
wasn't.
really, I think, a blessing in disguise for
What do
you growing up, because everybody was Mormon, but they weren't so Mormon that something like that, again, would have been a scandal. Like
Yeah.
you just fed all the primary kids coffee. What a sin. So
Yeah.
It's
that
a
helps
little
a
bit
lot.
more relaxed
Very
outside
much.
of Utah,
Yeah.
basically.
Even though my family was strict, like we were relaxed. I wouldn't call us extremists by any means, and still to this day, like
just very devout.
just devout and good people, which is how I think the church should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no run-ins with the bishop or like guilt, shame, spiral kind of stuff as a teen, Mormon teen.
As a teen, like we're even like law of chastity, masturbation stuff. That was never an
You
issue
were
for
a
me.
poster boy.
I was a poster.
Very,
boy. I was, yeah.
very much so.
Wow.
Thank you for that beautiful compliment.
For staying, I'm going to say it in air quotes, for staying clean.
I was clean. I was
Poster boy
squeaky
for
clean.
staying clean. Good for you.
Like nothing on
Good
him.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a medal for that one.
It might be because I did have like one run-in with like almost watching porn as a middle schooler, and it scarred me so bad that I was like, never again. And I was like, so yeah.
So you did have like one run-in with shame, you would say?
Oh yeah, I felt the darkness creep in immediately, and I was like, I don't want that in my life. And so yeah,
Good for you.
yeah, thanks.
You mentioned in your outline anti-Mormon literature a little bit. Did you already talk about that?
No, I
running
have
into
not.
that.
Yeah, yeah. The only anti-Mormon literature.
He's doing air quotes for those listening.
Yes,
Yeah.
I ever experienced in high school was I was reading in bed one night, and I don't even know how I came across it. But I was reading this random article about the Kirtland Revelation, where God or Jesus came down and gave him, and Elijah and all them, gave Moses. Gave him
Is
the
it
keys.
Joseph and Oliver Cowdery getting
Joseph and Oliver
visited in the
Cowdery.
temple
Yep.
by angels and
Yeah.
prophets?
And then I remember reading something that said, Jesus's voice, like this is Oliver Cowdery saying, Jesus's voice sounded eerily similar to Sidney Rigdon. And I was like, oh, and I was like, what? And then I just shut it and I didn't read it at all. And to this day, I can't even find that. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but I cannot find that. So if anyone knows where that is, cool. But I just immediately shut it out. Did not even go there. I didn't run into anything like that until my mission.
Okay.
Anything further. I found out about Joseph's polygamy through seminary, through a faithful lens, but they obviously did not say all the details about it. But my experience with any opposition to the church was extremely limited until my mission.
All right. I guess before we go to your freshman year, you had a song you wanted to play. Is that right? So tell us about this first song and what it's talking about.
Mm-hmm. So I actually wrote this song in 2017 before my faith crisis, and it's called "The Couch." I originally wrote it because I was imagining what it would be like if I wasn't in the church. Like, it's talking about my fear, like the dangers of alcohol, the dangers of letting your life slip by, of missing what's important. And at that time, it was through a faithful lens. As I evolved and as my beliefs changed, that song still resonated with me in many ways as kind of a reminder of what I was like, but also a lot of the themes of the song stay the same. Like, yeah, don't let your life slip by. Be true to yourself. don't watch out for alcohol, because I talk about that too. I
think
go ahead.
You should mention, or this is worth mentioning, that
Go ahead and set up while she's talking.
Oh yeah.
alcoholism is a big fear in Thomas's family because it does run in the family, if you will, which we haven't had any problems with that. But like he said, that's a pretty big theme in this song because it's something that he was warned about so frequently and so vehemently in his childhood, and even up until a little more recently. I think we can probably dive into that a little bit. Just his dad specifically, coming down the Stokes line, alcohol playing a big part in your quality of life, basically.
Yeah.
I think when you wrote the song, you were scared of that, and now that you can sing the song again, that fear is
much less. Yeah.
All right. So this is The Couch.
The Couch. Yep. I'm going to actually take off my ring.
By Thomas Stokes.
Yeah. I'll be Big Crick under any sort of...
Big Crick.
Yeah.
B-I-G...
C-R-I-C-K.
Okay. Big Crick.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time you have, sweep it all back till it's spread on the couch, 'cause you drank all you had. All the time you spend chasing your life, so to have the perfect children and to win the right bride. But she's slipping right through your fingertips now, and you're missing what's right in front of you now. What's another few days in the hole when you don't have a possible clue where to go? Never mind a few fanciful tricks and the way that she smiles when you lift up her chin, 'cause she's slipping right through your fingertips now, and you're missing what's right in front of you now. Heaven knows her and you'll never know me, so have another spirit and you'll finally be free. You'll get another chance to burn, but first you gotta die. Cut away the man from the spirit inside. Come to reason now, come to the light. Bridle your fears, let the darkness ignite, till it's all in one tangible whole, where the sky meets the ground to come calling you home. 'Cause life's slipping right through your fingertips now, and you're wishing the fight right away from you now. Heaven knows her and you'll never know me, so have another spirit and you'll finally be free. You'll get another chance to burn, but first you gotta die. Cut away the man from the spirit inside. Don't be afraid to die. Don't be afraid. I'm not afraid to die. I'm just afraid. Heaven knows her and you'll never know me, so have another spirit and you'll finally be free. You'll get another chance to burn, but first you gotta die. Cut away the man from the spirit inside. Cut away the man from the spirit inside. Cut away the man from the spirit inside. Cut away the man from the spirit inside.
I love it. Woo! Do we clap?
I was going to say, are we allowed to?
Thanks.
Want your ring back?
So make the most of the life you have.
Yep.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
And don't drink.
Don't drink.
Shout out to Boyd X. Boyd X writes, I love live music even when it's online. This is great. So
Oh, thanks.
hope you listeners are enjoying some live
Sweet.
music. We like to try and be creative and do fun, cool things on Mormon Stories. So this is fun. Thanks, Thomas, for being willing to
Yeah.
share your talents with us.
Absolutely. It's a blast.
Okay, so I guess is anything else about your upbringing, your family, before you go to college? Is that kind of where we are?
Yeah, it was about as perfect as it could have been. I remember one more thing. Sorry, at EFY, I remember being troubled because everyone else in my group was like, "I've been through this and that and that, and I've been through so many hardships." And I remember thinking, my life is pretty easy and perfect. And I brought it up to my counselor, and he said, "It's perfect because you're so solid." And I was like, "Okay, that's."
Like you accepted that.
I accepted that. I was like, I guess my life is perfect because I'm righteous. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, so kind of living the Mormon dream a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Did you think of yourself as being Nephi, like being super righteous and
No.
no?
This sounds weird. Like I want to say like I was so humble, but I just felt kind of normal. You know, I felt special because I was in the church, but I was always like, yeah, no, I was just normal. I don't
You
think
didn't
I
take on like the warrior.
No, yeah, I didn't try to be
mentality.
like the Nephi or anything. I was just living life and enjoying it.
Okay, all right. So college.
College.
So you graduated high school in what state? In Georgia or?
I graduated high school in Hawaii.
Okay, in Hawaii.
Mhm.
All right.
Which was awesome. But the time came. I graduated. Did I have a choice on where I wanted to go? Kind of, but not really. I knew it was going to be BYU.
Well, there's BYU Hawaii.
You know, I did have that thought, but the reason I chose BYU-Provo was because of their music program.
Okay. It's
I wanted to
top-notch,
major in commercial music, which some of you might know that major. It's basically sound design, mixing, production, songwriting, basically doing what I do now, but a degree for it. Super strict, not strict. What's the word? Hard to get
It's
into.
rigorous and demanding.
Demanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to get into. I had like a less than 10% acceptance rate. And so I did my audition before I started the semester, didn't get into the program. So I said, bummer, I guess I'll just prepare with my, I'll prepare to audition again right before my mission, and I'll just do my generals. So my freshman year of BYU was pretty, just pretty standard. I was elders quorum president in my ward, which was the first time my testimony had been put to the test because, you know, my parents weren't there to make me go to church. So I had to take it upon myself to develop my own testimony and know that the church was true, take care of people in my quorum, which was challenging but not too bad. Everything was mostly focused on school, but yeah, the calling was
Were
okay.
you in the dorms?
Yeah, I was in Helaman Hall.
Helaman Hall.
Oh,
What's
no,
dorm?
wow, no,
Heritage.
Heritage. Yeah, I was in
You
Heritage.
made
Hall.
your own food.
Yeah, I made my own food, which I still love cooking to this day. So, and I owe it all to my mother and Heritage Halls.
Okay. So, anything important happened in your freshman year?
The only thing important that happened was my roommate was my best friend from Hawaii. We roomed together, and he will come in later into the story. But we had an awesome time together. Fantastic experience together. It was, again, just living the Mormon dream.
And an elders quorum president.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big deal. Like, you know, you've got all these kids from all these Mormon kids from all over the world converging at BYU to find their eternal companion. Let's just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Getting
Yeah.
an education is maybe the second priority, but finding your
It's a
eternal.
matchmaking program.
That's fair.
I mean, it really is. Your job number one at BYU is to find your eternal companion.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah, lots of people
And-
got married that year.
And so you've got a ward that you're in, the guy that is picked as elders quorum president, that's kind of a big, I don't know, it would feel validating or something.
I was second quorum elders president, so I was the back burner elders.
What does that mean?
No, there were 2 elders quorums just
So
because
you're
there were
one
so
of
many.
2.
I was one of 2.
Okay.
No, it was yeah, I don't think I thought that much of it. Like, I knew it was important, but I don't think it made me think I was more important than anyone else.
Okay, so even though you're kind of like checking the boxes and really living what I think many would say is like, no big law of chastity slip ups, going to BYU, becoming elders quorum president. It sounds like in your mind, you're not like, wow, I'm really doing this. There's a humility, or just, let's just say, a not overemphasis on your personal righteousness.
Yeah.
There's a relaxedness I'm sensing about your righteousness.
I owe that to my parents and not being raised in Utah, I think.
Okay.
I think it would have been a lot bigger of deal in my mind if I was raised in Utah in the bubble. And also, my parents are wonderful, and they always talked about they taught the gospel in a way that was centered around being a good person, which I think is very important, and not being like, oh, I'm so righteous. There were definitely things that now I don't agree with just because it's what the church teaches, but they taught me to be a good person. And I don't know, anyone that knows me can probably testify or say that, it's the gospel for me was not about being more righteous than others. It was just about being a good person, being kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess is mission next? I don't want to jump. You can check your outline. Is mission next, or you can hold that and then
so you can
always
keep forgetting to.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, mission's next.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So do you apply for your mission while at BYU?
I was at BYU.
Okay.
And I think it's very important to note, while I was applying for my mission, I also applied to the School of Music one more time. I had been rigorously training to be on classical piano. I had a private teacher to help me with the audition. I was working on my portfolio, on my songs that I was writing.
You were auditioning as a pianist?
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah.
At BYU.
Yeah, I guess because I auditioned on guitar the year before, and my technical knowledge on the guitar is not great. I just enjoy playing it, and I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
But my technical knowledge on the piano was much higher, and so I cultivated that the whole year, freshman year, and did my audition in January, nailed it, but I still got put on the waiting list. I was number 4 on the waiting list, and I didn't know what to do at that point because I was going to go on a mission, put in my mission papers, and I got called to Santiago South.
Chile.
Yep. And that was super exciting. My dad actually predicted it. He called it. He was like, "You're going to Chile." And he was the only one that was right. And he was.
Had your dad served a mission? I forget.
He went to Peru. Lima,
Okay.
I want to say north, which at this point.
So we went to South America.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you both
I
went
was
to South
super pumped
America.
about that. And then my brother, he went to Northern California, Spanish speaking.
Okay.
So I was super excited about speaking Spanish, South America, everything. My dad told me so much about Peru growing up, and that was exciting for me. So I was so happy to be going there.
So again, foreign speaking mission is kind of viewed as like
top notch.
Top notch, right? So you're living the dream. You're living the Mormon dream up through your mission.
It was
okay.
like, I can't tell you how perfect everything went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was as you were like going into the MTC, what was your testimony like?
It was pretty solid, actually. I had read the Book of Mormon. The only answers I ever felt like I got, though, were just tinglies. Not even like the burning in the bosom, but you know how you can kind of like get the chills if you listen to a nice song or something inspiring. That would happen when I would listen to hymns. Hymns were huge for me. And occasionally during talks or certain things like that, but mostly hymns. I would feel the Spirit during hymns. And so that was big for me. I clung to that very, very strongly. and my testimony was good. It had never seen any adversity, though, so I was pretty naive going into it.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, Chile, I don't know how much Mormon Stories you've watched, but the Chile mission is weighs heavy on my heart, because I had in Guatemala on my mission, there was just this massive push to baptize thousands. And so Guatemala had, 10% activity rates and thousands of people on a ward or a branch roll, and maybe 10 people attending. And Chile was the only country I was aware of that actually has been worse than Guatemala in terms of Mormon missionaries baptizing just mountains of people and having like a less than a 10% activity rate.
It was 5%.
5%.
They had to.
Yeah.
Was it after your mission when you were home that they kind of went in and cleaned things up?
Well, let me just say that, like, for those of you on Mormon Stories who don't know, go back and listen to my Ted Lyon interview. You can listen to my Roger Hendricks interview. But we talk about how during, there was a mission in Viña del Mar in Chile that had over 1,000 baptisms a month while I was a missionary in Guatemala. And Elder Holland had to go to Chile. Was that before or after you? To clean things up, and he closed 30 stakes because the church was just decimated because of these awful baptismal practices.
Yes.
What year were you in Chile?
I was in Chile from 2014 to 2016.
Yeah, that would have been after.
Yeah, so we knew about Holland.
You knew that he had been there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of my mentors at BYU, Ted Lyon, had served as a mission president in Chile, went back and was temple president in Chile, was Elder Holland's interpreter, and he's the one who validated all this stuff.
Yeah, it's all true.
And so, and he was MTC president too. So, I mean, anyway, that all would have happened before you ever went to Chile. And so, but you would have also gone after Holland had closed and collapsed and canceled all these wards and branches and closed over 30 stakes. Yep. And so I just want to kind of give that history to set the stage for like what you would have encountered when you stepped onto the mission. But you can talk about the MTC first if you want, obviously.
I cried the first night I got to the MTC, and then told myself I had to suck it up. And
so 2 months in the MTC.
It was 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah, it was pretty
in
standard.
Chile, or
it was in Chile? Yeah,
you did the Chile MTC.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Which was kind of cool. I enjoyed being there. It was a little scary, but not a ton to say about the MTC. Food wasn't great. That's about it. But I got to the mission field, and we heard about the Great Purge of Elder Holland.
What would you have heard?
We heard pretty much exactly what you said.
I'd love to hear it in your words.
Yeah.
You get there.
I got there, and my companion was like, "Hey, there are over 1,000 people in the ward on this list. We have to go door to door, go through the whole list, see who lives there, see who doesn't, cross anyone off. Basically, like, make sure that we have the numbers right." Just because there were so many people, and many of them had moved. So one of our biggest jobs at the beginning of my mission was seeing who lived where, and getting a hold of all the members. And there was I think it was a 5% activity rate when I first got there. 5, yeah. Our mission was bad. My mission
in the whole mission?
Yeah, the whole mission was about 5% activity rate.
I just want you guys 5% of the members who had been baptized in this entire mission in Chile were active, meaning there was a 95% inactivity rate in a single mission. So when you think about, we've tried to cover this on Mormon Stories, that like the church says 16 million people are members. But when you've got like a country where 5% are active, you know why we say it's more like 3 to 4 million at the most who are active in the church. So so again, I'm blown away, but 5%.
Yeah, you're fine.
5% activity rates.
I'm pretty sure that was the number. I would have to reach out to my mission president to confirm that. We actually ended up raising a solid amount, partially due to how good my mission president was. Best guy ever. I still love him. He walked me through part of my faith crisis, but he was all around very loving guy. Maybe it's because he wasn't like super strict. He let us. He was a pretty chill mission president, all things considered. Not strict about the rules.
And he was honest. I feel like that plays a big part. Is that it wasn't numbers for him. He was honestly there to do what missions are meant to be, which is not just, it's not just baptisms, it's actual conversion, you know? So he's a really good guy. I met him once, and I think honesty played a big part in how he ran his, what would that be, area, I guess, mission. All of his missionaries. Mission, so partially, that was really good that they stationed him there, I think.
He's also probably one of the only Democrat mission presidents ever.
Oh, wow.
That might play a big part, too.
It might. Who knows?
So your mission president was a registered Democrat?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Like
he's pretty progressive. Yeah.
He's a good guy. I'll get cool. more about...
he's really cool.
We'll bring him up more because I think he was an important part of my mission. But yeah, let's see. Mission.
So they sit you down and say, there's been a problem. Mm-hmm. Did you finish that part of the story? Just what you were told?
That most of our work at the beginning was trying to teach inactives and bring them back.
Okay.
Yeah, which honestly changed things a lot. We still did baptisms, but not a ton.
So was there a sense of saturation? I always wondered this in those countries like Chile and Mexico and others, where you just knock on the doors and
everybody
we have
knew.
Seen missionaries.
Oh yeah,
forever. Yeah, and so your tracting almost isn't worthwhile because everybody knew you're there. The country had been tracted out.
Yeah, almost all my baptisms came from tracting. Oh. But I could on every single area that I lived in, I could walk across it in 20 minutes. And
super small.
So
many missions.
Yeah, it was kind of the more the poorer part, and so it was a little bit more on the dangerous side as well. But the houses were super close. So I had knocked on every door in all of my areas probably 3 times, maybe more.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there was a lot of knocking.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Actually, we didn't knock. You say "Allo." That's how you knock. It's like in Argentina, I think you clap. In other countries, you whistle. Well, that's how you do it in Chile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I was pretty obedient. My brother gave me some good advice, though. He was like, dude, you can be super obedient, and you should be super obedient, but have fun. Don't be afraid to take breaks. Don't be afraid to have fun with your companion. Don't be afraid to goof off.
Be a little rowdy.
Be a little rowdy when you can. And I took that to heart. I was not going to be the square missionary, but I was going to be the obedient missionary. And so I took that to heart. I think I succeeded. You can ask any of my companions if you want, but I'm pretty sure it was just I had a good balance between having fun and working hard. The worst thing I did on my mission, I did get a little disobedient. There was a night, and this is a funny story. There was a night where 2 nights of the year, there are organized riots in the streets of Santiago due to some injustices that happen, but we won't get into all that. But basically, riots happen, and we have to stay inside all day. And we're supposed to clean and study the scriptures, but we had a member in our ward that was like, "Hey, elders, you want to borrow my TV and DVD collection?" So we went to his house and got his big screen TV and carried it all the way to our apartment and watched movies all day, but I made sure they were appropriate movies. So yeah, that's like the worst thing I ever did on my mission.
Watch a movie you shouldn't have watched?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were watching Age of Ultron, and I was like, we shouldn't watch that one, so I did yoga in the other room. But we watched like The Good Dinosaur, Kung Fu Panda 3. I'm trying to remember what other ones.
Yeah,
they were just like innocent movies.
Kid movies.
Yeah. But it was a blast. We would just ate food all day and watch movies. But that's to give you an idea. That's the worst I ever did on my mission.
To tell you how much of an insufferable missionary I was, I never watched a movie on my mission. That would have been that would have been too far. So that's how lame I was. And I'm not trying to one up you or flex.
No, please.
But that's how insufferable I was.
I would also watch the Copa America, which is
football.
Football, yeah. We would watch that. I think I watched it one of the 2 years when Chile won against Argentina.
Is that technically not allowed?
Talk about what happens when a goal is scored and you're like walking through the streets.
Oh, they're nuts. They go crazy. Everyone brings out like the gangsters. They have their guns and they start firing them in the air. There are people running out in the streets, screaming, yelling. Everyone has their asado, and
goal!
goal. Like People go nuts. That was a really cool part of being there. Because, like, I don't know, America, we just don't treat soccer right. We're like, oh, it's for sissies. But, like, it's an awesome sport, super fun. So it was good to see that side of the world. I enjoyed that part of it.
Jump to the stories before we do the doubts.
Oh,
stuff.
the doubts. Yeah, for
go
sure.
through the stories. And I don't know when you want to include the song for this one, but
yeah, we'll do it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, at the end. Of
So
my
go
mission.
through other stories you want to share, and then I want to do the faith stuff. At the end.
One moment of arrogance as a missionary kind of shone through. I was knocking on doors, and I saw this lady in her front yard, and she was trying to take care of her daughter, and she didn't want to listen to us. And this was towards the beginning of my mission, and that's when I was a little more strict. And I remember getting kind of frustrated with her, and she kept saying no, 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 but I was being persistent like I was taught to be. And finally, I was like, all right, we'll leave. But just so you know, we have the keys to your salvation. And I walked off. And almost immediately after, I was like, why did I say that? That is so arrogant.
Little missionary pride.
Yeah,
arrogance.
It was so bad. I regret that to this day, and I hope she forgot about that. But
I remember those moments. It's just you're getting rejected all the time.
Yeah.
And eventually you get frustrated. And so it comes out in kind of these passive-aggressive,
yeah,
I'm more righteous than you. I'm going to the social kingdom. You're not.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt so bad.
You'll pay.
And I'm at least happy that I had the awareness to realize that it was not something I should have said, like right after. That's something that happened. I casted out an evil spirit.
What?
Which was pretty cool.
Okay, talk about that.
I used to not tell this story to anyone because I thought it was too
sacred.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell it. I'll tell
it.
it. So this kid, he was coming back to activity. He lived with his sister, niece, and brother-in-law. And unfortunately, his brother-in-law actually killed himself in that house where they lived together, which was very sad. A couple days later, he calls us, and he was like, elders, I think there's an evil spirit in my house, or maybe it's him. I don't know. But he called us over. We went over, and he said that while he was laying in bed, he kept hearing a voice saying, "Matate, matate," which means kill yourself. And so he was freaking out because he was like, what if this spirit is what told, this is the spirit that told my brother-in-law to kill himself over and over again. So he was freaking out. And I told him, all right, let's bless the house. And I was with my companion, who was from Utah as well. So we were both a little bit like not on the superstitious side. But as soon as we walked into the house, I could feel like a presence. I felt dark, I was scared, super scared. And we talk about it. We're like, hey, man, as soon as we command the spirit to leave, he will leave if you have faith. If you have faith. And he was like, all right, let's do it. So we all knelt down together, and I said a prayer. And as soon as I said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I cast you out, I felt kind of better. And we got up, and he was like, this is great. Thank you. I feel good now. I was like, awesome. We left. And then as we're walking, I'm with my companion. Won't say any names, but he's from Utah. Super, he was pretty shy and a cool kid. We started rough, but he became one of my favorite companions. I love him to this day. And I was like, dude, what'd you think about that? And he was like, yeah, no. And he didn't have much to say. And I was like, do you think it was real? And he was like, it was real. And I was like, how do you know? And he goes, because I saw him walk out of the room. And I was like, what? What? Who? He goes, I saw him walk out of the room, the spirit. And I was like, are you serious? And he goes, yeah, as soon as you started the prayer, he walked out of the room, stood right behind you while you were kneeling on the floor, was looking down at you, just like that. And as soon as you told him to leave, he just walked out the door. And I was like, you're kidding. Don't mess with me right now. Don't mess with me. And he was like, it's true. And he was like, this has been a thing for me since I was a kid. I can see things.
Was he native?
He was a white kid from Utah.
Oh.
Yeah. And so that's why I was like, Utah's not a very superstitious place for how spiritual it is. It's not superstitious.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe it is.
Some parts it is.
Okay. Maybe he was from a superstitious part, but I was like freaking out. And he was not the kind to mess with you. He was a super sincere kid. And I say kid, but we were the same age. I love him and I trusted him. And so I don't know, like, I didn't know what to do with that story for a long time. And I still don't.
That's okay. You don't have to resolve it now.
Yeah, I don't
Just say
have
what
to.
it meant to you at the time.
It meant a whole lot to me. I was like, I have the power of God. and I have another story too that is also relevant. Before that, it was within 6 months of my mission. I went to the ER because the guy we were teaching, he was into some gang violence. He got stabbed 7 times, once through the heart, and he was in critical condition. And his wife was like, "Go give him a blessing." And he was like, "Okay." And my trainer was like, "You got this, man." And I gave him a blessing, and I felt prompted to say that he would live. I was like, "You will live." And he was in critical condition. Doctor said he had less than a 10% chance of living. But I told him he would live. And sure enough, he lived. And I was like, I got the power of God. I am powerful, not me, but like God is working through me. And I felt special about that. Of course, when we went to go visit him after he was out of the hospital, we found out he had brain damage and he had the mental capacity of a 7-year-old, more or less. And that was shocking to me because I was like, wait, but God prompted me and said that he would be fine. But then I got the justification, and it was like, oh, well, he was involved in gang violence. If he had his normal mental capacity, he would have gone straight back into that life.
So God
was, he debilitated him so he would be more docile and not get into bad things. Stay safe.
Because you couldn't repent and just get better.
Yeah, no. That's off the table. God works in mysterious ways.
And sometimes things like that mess with your head as a Mormon kid because you're like, well, if I had just not healed him, maybe he would have died, but he would have had higher quality of life. This way, I revived him, but now he's debilitated to the intellectual capacity of a 7th. You know, and it's like, wait, was that good? And why? And again, like you said, why would God partially heal him but not fully, and then make him live like that for the rest of his life?
And I
And
tried.
that's such a heavy thing because
Right.
how old were you on your mission? 20, 22, 21?
I went when I was 19. Oh, yeah.
So you're even younger.
Yeah.
It can be
And
heavy.
that's so heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you just compartmentalize it.
Which is what I did, of course, naturally.
That's how you get through. I think most people do.
Yeah, that one was super hard. And I went and taught him a lesson after, and it really was just like teaching a kid. And his wife, I tried to tell him about the atonement, and his wife was like, "Elder, he doesn't understand." And I was like, "Oh." So I had to dumb it down. I was like, "Jesus loves you." And then we left, and I never taught him again. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's intense. Those moments are intense. Really quickly, we have a viewer who says Utah is very superstitious. So
okay, I wasn't raised here.
There is a lot of superstition.
I guess you don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it is superstitious.
No, it's both. It's both.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's both.
I mean, I was raised outside, military.
Yeah.
Not superstitious.
Right.
Not at all. I never believed much in anything like that.
Totally.
Another thing, plenty of danger on my mission. I had guns pointed at me. I got punched in the face. Got attempted robbery 3 or 4 times. None successful. The mission president always told me, like, just give him everything, but we never did. I was like, no, you can't have my watch. And we would just walk away, and it always worked out. But it was kind of dangerous because I thought I was protected, so I was a little more bold than I should have been. And I definitely, looking back, like, I was in some dangerous situations. We were, that one day that I told you that the riots happened, the first year that happened, we were at night, we had our mattresses on the floor, we all had a weapon, we were all laying on the floor while gunshots literally right outside our door were just bam, 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 people vandalizing everything, like screaming, fires, all night. And for me, it was a badge of honor. It was cool. I was being valiant. I'm doing this for the Lord. It was a sacrifice. So it felt good, but I was also scared shitless at the same time. Sorry, can we swear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I've listened to enough, but
yeah.
And
Anyway.
you wouldn't go back and do it now, probably.
No, that was scary.
I remember in Guatemala there would be a coup d'etat, and you'd see soldiers in tanks going through the streets.
You were there for a coup?
Yeah, but the thing is, it wasn't a big deal. I'm like,
It was normal.
I'm like, there are tanks going by and soldiers and I'm jeeps, and I'm like, dude, and the companion's just like, that's nothing. There's just a coup d'etat.
Like, we'll be
I
fine.
was like, whoa, Latin America is its whole different.
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah.
Africa's the same way.
Oh
but-
yeah, and of course I was told to not tell my mom about any of this.
Yeah, missionaries, Mormon missionaries are
Yeah.
literally told, don't write home anything bad or scary. Don't write home.
If she listens to this, some of that stuff would be news to her.
Yeah.
I still haven't told her.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, family, if you're listening to this, I love you. I hope this doesn't hurt your feelings too bad. We'll get into that later, though.
And you got punched in the face. Did you already said that?
Yeah, I
okay.
didn't go into detail. I just said I got punched in the face.
Okay, yeah. How'd you get punched in the face?
We were walking across the street, or down the sidewalk, and this was in like the first 3 months of my mission, so I was super new. And we are taught to say hello to everyone. We go, hola, buenas, like buenas tardes, you know? And then as soon as we were walking, I said that to this guy, and as soon as I said it, he goes, concha tu madre, which is basically
Bad word?
mother effer, you know, in Spanish, in Chilean Spanish at least. And he just goes, bam, and clocks me right. It was right here, right on the mouth and nose. And I was in shock. I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I just kept walking. And my companion was looking away. And this is my trainer. He was looking away. And then he looks back and he sees that I'm shaken up. And he goes, did he just punch me in the face? And I was like, yeah, let's just keep going. And that happened. I told my mission president about it. And that became kind of a story on the mission. I got kind of well-known. That story became a little well-known for, another kid got stabbed through the hand. Yeah, no, it was no joke. It was a ghetto part of Santiago, so some bad stuff happened.
Yeah, like one of the reasons why I really resonated with the Book of Mormon musical is, it's set in Uganda, and that you've got terrorists, you've got warlords there, and
Yeah.
People with machine guns, and like Mormon people think about Mormon missionaries, especially overseas, it's just white shirts and ties and smiley and short hair in Utah. But the truth is, like, my brother-in-law had a gun pointed at his chest.
Oh,
like missionaries. My companion from BYU, my freshman roommate from BYU, Monty McCotter was his name, was killed on his mission. He was hit by a car. Like, it can be not only super dangerous and you can die, but even if you stop short of dying, a lot of these foreign missions like Brazil, you can get stabbed, you can get shot, and you can just be assaulted in ways, sexually assaulted. Like, there's a lot of scary, dangerous, harmful stuff that happens to missionaries that can lead to PTSD and trauma. That we have not covered enough of that on Mormon Stories, because there are a lot of people in their mission experiences that have really serious things.
yeah.
Stabbed through the hand?
Yeah,
I mean,
I forgot who it was. It happened right before I got to the field. And that was a big story too.
I wonder if he probably has like nerve damage now. Like, he probably carries that with him now, which is so crazy.
There was a companionship on my mission that ran over people and killed them. Like,
gosh.
because
Wait.
in Guatemala, in Guatemala, the mission president drove crazy because everybody kind of drives crazy. So the mission President Romney set the tone of just driving like a wild man.
Wait, the missionaries ran
So the
someone over?
APs drove like wild men, following the example of the mission president. And they during my mission, one of the APs ran over and killed somebody. Just drive. Imagine that. You're on a mission and you kill somebody.
Like, now you carry that for the rest of your life.
So I mean, I'm not trying to say all missions are bad. Lots of Mormon missionaries have a lot of great things happen to them on their mission.
I did.
But there's also a lot of
Those
scary,
foreign ones
violent stuff. It's
especially are
not just
crazy.
like you preach the gospel for 2 years. It's really
heavy stuff.
heavy stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think we covered the big stories. Do you want to talk about like your faith stuff and?
Yes. So the mission is when things started to go downhill for me.
Really quick, I'll just go ahead and throw this in
Yeah.
while we're at a pause. One of our listeners, this is Zach, writes, I had a gun pointed at my face during my first week by some drugged out teenage
Is that
kid.
our Zach?
That's my best friend.
Oh, is that Zach?
Yeah.
You know Zach.
That's our Zach.
Hey, Zach. Shout out to Zach.
Hey, Zach. How's it going, dude?
Zach also writes, not safe at all for young, dumb kids.
Yep, very true.
Anyway, shout out to Zach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Glad he's watching.
Sorry, got to throw Zach's comment in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so true.
So did doubts start to seep in a little bit?
So since everyone knew who Mormons were, everyone knew the bad things about Mormonism too. There was actually an article released on my mission about Joseph Smith's polygamy, some of which I did not know. And it became the talk of the town. Everyone knew about it. Everyone started criticizing us for it. So the mission president actually arranged a zone conference, or that's what it's called when the whole mission comes, right? Zone, or just the whole mission conference. And he gave a presentation on polygamy and shared almost everything, even the fact that Joseph Smith married other women, or women that were already married. He shared Fanny Alger. He didn't.
What?
Yeah.
He's very honest.
He's honest.
What year was this?
What year? That was like 2015.
Okay, so this would have been after the Gospel Topics essays come out.
Mm-hmm.
And-
That's where I learned about the Gospel Topics essay, was from him telling us about them.
Okay, so I've always wanted to know this. Like,
Yeah.
once the Gospel Topics essays start rolling out, what's it like to be a missionary and for the first time start learning some of these things? So so tell us.
Yeah, it was. I learned about all this on my mission, all of it, and it was nuts because I had to use the Gospel Topic essays to answer questions from.
How did you
people.
first learn about the Gospel Topics essays on your mission?
My
Start
mission
there.
president.
Okay, so he rolls
said,
that out at
"Guys,"
Zone Conference or what?
Yeah, that conference. He was like, "Here are all the facts." Oh, one more thing, just to say how awesome my mission president was. He goes, "Elders, I want you to know I do not have a testimony of polygamy."
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, crazy.
Who is
right?
this guy? What was his job before?
He's a lawyer, David Cook, best guy
From
ever.
where?
From New York.
Okay.
He's from what part? It was upstate New York.
Wow.
Yeah, awesome guy. His wife
cut from
is
a different cloth.
amazing. His wife is so awesome. It was so funny. She she would kind of run the show too, and because they weren't sexist, they weren't, they were awesome people. And so he would always like look back at his wife, and she'd be like, "Mm-mm." And so yeah, they were great. So how did I get into that? I don't have a
So
testimony.
he introduced the Gospel Topics
Yeah,
essays
yeah.
to you. How did he say it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Honestly, he was just like, use this as a resource. Go to the church website for it. They're honest. You can trust them.
What made him bring up polygamy to missionaries? Was it just
the
you?
article that came out?
Okay.
That article came out, and everyone around the mission, members, non-members, inactive people, everyone was talking about Joseph Smith's polygamy, and he was like, I need to take care of this. So that's why he did the conference. That's why he brought up the Gospel Topic essays. And so I started reading into those to answer questions that my investigators and the people that were inactive had. They had questions, and so I needed to answer.
So what was it like reading through those? Do you remember?
Yeah,
Were you on your phone? Were you on an iPad?
We were in the church building on their computer. We didn't have smartphones.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So you had computer access at the church?
Yeah, we would spend about a couple hours a week on the computer doing rescate is what it was called. It was like the church in Chile had a system for like organizing who lived where, since there were so many members. I think it was called rescate. Anyway, and yeah, we were allowed to look up the Gospel Topic essays and other church-related content on those computers. And I learned about DNA in the Book of Mormon, the Israelites, Nephites not really being of Israelite descent. I learned about the Book of Abraham very briefly. I didn't delve too much into that because that one scared me really bad. I learned about polygamy, ton of polygamy. I learned about blacks in the priesthood. I learned about, this wasn't through the Gospel Topics essay, but I learned that the Masons, that Joseph Smith ripped off the endowment from the Masons on my mission from some people that I tried to knock doors on. They were like, you guys are Masonic and don't trust it. So I had to do research on that. Basically everything under the sun I learned about on my mission.
What was that like for you?
It was difficult, but also I was able to compartmentalize and justify everything.
So this is,
Oh, yeah.
I hope audience is okay as kind of digging into this a little bit, because this is something I've wanted to do for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So the Gospel Topics essays, bonus that the church released them. Of course, they were forced to release them, but bonus that they released them.
Yep.
First time in history that they've openly addressed as their own content, a lot of those controversial issues. We've covered that quite a bit. Here's the thing. It's pretty well known that they're written where in a very apologetic way, where they're leaving out things that are too troubling or inconvenient, and then they contextualize everything in a way to where it's sort of, I always use the term sort of, these are not the droids you're looking for. It's like a hand wavy, like everything's fine polygamy, everything's fine Book of Abraham, everything's fine DNA. And so I've always wondered when a missionary stumbles on them and starts reading them, as long as the whole essay is saying, fact number 1, it's going to be fine. Fact number 2, it's going to be fine. Fact number 3, these are not the droids you're looking for. Fact number 4, this makes the church true even more. Like, does a missionary even process it as a problem? Or is it like, this is awesome, I'm learning cool new history and the church is even more true? Which was it for you?
For me, it was all about an answer. Not a right answer, not a good answer, but an answer.
Just getting answers.
Because I had felt the Spirit, quote unquote. That was enough for me. So logic thrown out the window. As long as I had an answer to give my investigators and myself, I was okay with it. I didn't learn all the dirty details. I only learned as much as the gospel topic essays allowed. The only other thing aside from that was Masonry. They don't talk about Masonry in the gospel.
So.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Temple's too sacred, I'm sure, is their justification.
So I learned about Masonry from knocking doors, and someone told me. And then I learned about David Whitmer's An Address to All Believers in Christ.
The problem with that was?
That was honestly the hardest thing. Because I was about to baptize this guy, and he was like, I just read this, go check it out, like, it's all false. But then I convinced him otherwise, and he got baptized. But David Whitmer's...
One of the 3 witnesses,
One of the 3 witnesses. They always say none of the 3 witnesses ever denied their testimony of the Book of Mormon, which more or less is true. It's true. But David Whitmer, at the end of his life, came out with an address to set the record straight. And he said he reaffirmed his testimony of the Book of Mormon, but he also reiterated that Joseph Smith was a fallen prophet. What really hurt me was in one section, he talks about the way they changed the Book of Commandments, the way they changed the Revelations. They went back and said, Joseph Smith originally said, or God originally said that Joseph Smith is my servant and he is a translator, and this is where his authority ends. But they went back later and changed certain sections of the Doctrine and Covenants to include more responsibilities, more revelation, more information about Joseph Smith and his power and abilities to make it seem like he was a bigger deal. And David Whitmer calls Joseph out. He calls him out on the priesthood, them creating a Melchizedek priesthood.
Explain that.
Yeah, so before it was just the priesthood. It was the power of God to baptize, and we're good. I'm not a historian, and I know you know more, so you can correct me. But
how you processed it is all that
how
matters.
I processed it, yeah. I actually didn't learn a ton about this until Mormon Stories with Grant Palmer. I listened to that episode. But what I learned on my mission was that Joseph Smith, the way he changed the name of the church, the way he invented the Melchizedek priesthood after the fact, and just like popped it out of nowhere, the way he went back and changed sections of the Doctrine and Covenants, that's all I really learned about.
Two quick things. So we just did an episode with John Larson on the prophecies for the Lamanites and how the Book of Commandments and the Doctrine and Covenants got changed. Check that out. That's a really good one. But also, just to reiterate, we're all taught that like Joseph Smith has the visit from John the Baptist and gets the Aaronic priesthood through laying out of hands prior to the church even being formed or right around that time. And that very similarly, Peter, James, and John ordained the Melchizedek priesthood. The truth is there's no evidence that the Melchizedek priesthood was ever ordained to anyone. There's no date for the Melchizedek priesthood. So there's no even date to commemorate it. And none of the people around during those first several years of the church, including David Whitmer, knew anything about there ever being a Melchizedek priesthood. So that whole Melchizedek priesthood thing, like you just said, was invented after the fact and then written backwards into the history. And this is super weird because, by the way, the Book of Mormon mentions nothing about Melchizedek priesthood. So basically what we think has been the everlasting gospel from Adam to the present.
Never changed.
Right? It never changes. It's the restoration of all things. What actually was happening is from 1830, actually 1828, all the way through to 1844, Joseph is developing new and new and new ideas. And then what we've done is written them back into the history as if it was that way all along, when in reality, that whole Melchizedek priesthood thing was made up. And David Whitmer in his pamphlet
Calls him out.
it calls him out on that. And that's a big deal. Yeah. And so you noticed that as a missionary.
And so that
and Cece, why were you kind of shaking your head and you were experiencing some feelings there?
So when we start talking about when we began dating, we'll get into this more, but I've learned a lot of my church history through Thomas because just with my upbringing, I didn't have a lot of interest in knowing every little thing about the church. I've never been that involved. And so anything having to do with Joseph Smith just blows my mind because he just sounds like such a crackpot and people just read into it so much. And I'm like, do we really believe that this guy was genuine and we're going to like base an entire religion and organized foundation on him? Like, yeah, anytime Thomas tells me something new, I'm like, are we really like... Did you really believe this once? Like, not to be condescending towards him or towards our family or anything, but it really does amaze me. I'm like, this guy, I feel like you can see right through him. He's just, he's insane. He's a con man, but here we are.
Through an outside lens, Mormonism is kind of whack.
It is, yeah.
But as a missionary, so what'd you do with that pamphlet?
I read it online, and
Did they restrict your access to what you could read? Could you see CES letter? Could you see Mormon
stories? I could have if I wanted to. But I didn't know.
Did you know about the CES letter?
I did not know about the CES letter.
Or Mormon stories at the time? Okay.
Nope. Didn't know about any of that. So I...
2015, you're saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What month about?
Let's see. When he got baptized. It would have been towards the tail end of my mission, probably around March.
Okay.
That the address to all believers would have been March of 2016.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, and again, I just always like to note the bubble, the Great Mormon bubble. I was excommunicated, February or whatever of 2015. It literally was tweeted by the New York Times. It was a global story. The CES letter was a huge deal by 2015, and here you are, having been raised in the church, young, internet savvy. It's 2015, 2016, and you had never heard of any podcast or PDF or any content that would have ever caused you to wonder. And that just shows how much power the church has in limiting and controlling the information that is available on everyone's phone for years prior, but somehow they have this lock on behavior that you would never even learn about its existence, let alone actually read or consume any content that could possibly question your faith. Because you're into 2016. I mean, the November 2015 policy happens on your mission. So anyway, I had to note that. Yeah. Because it is kind of stunning.
It was all under the umbrella of anti-Mormon literature, so I didn't even go there. And to me, reading the David Whitmer's address, that was anti-Mormon literature, and I was reading it in order to answer questions, and that was the only reason I was even getting into it. And it did shake my testimony, but all I did was just reiterate. I was like, hey, man, I know this shook your testimony, but remember, he didn't deny his testimony of the Book of Mormon. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it's true. This is the true church because this is the biggest church. None of the other branches, none of the other dissenters of Joseph Smith lasted very long. Even Community of Christ isn't that big. We're bigger, therefore we're right, and we have the line of the priesthood. I told him, I could trace my line of the priesthood all the way back to Jesus Christ, and I did. I got that on my mission, and I thought that was so cool. And so that's what I told him, and he felt better and got baptized. Now he's inactive. Talked to him a couple months ago. Makes me happy. He was like, "Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking." I was like, "Me neither." He was like, "I love you though. You're great," and we expressed some good feelings, and it felt good to. Pretty much everyone I baptized is inactive now, so that makes me happy.
You're jumping ahead.
Sorry.
No jumping ahead. But so in terms of your doubts, how do you summarize what you did with these doubts that came up?
So Cece reminded me of this. My mission president during that polygamy conference, he introduced us to the concept of a shelf. which everyone uses now, and so it's nothing new. But if you have a doubt, you put it on your shelf. You don't look at it. Occasionally, you can take it off your shelf, study it, read about it, pray about it, think about it. If you don't get an answer, just put it back on your shelf. Don't worry about it because the church is true. So I took that to heart, and I put all that stuff on my shelf. Yeah. So that's how I handled it.
It's basically the turn it off method.
Yeah, turn it off. The Book of Mormon.
Like a light switch.
Yeah.
So we've got some fun comments coming in. They're worth sharing. So Cam writes, I only read and heard of the CES letter this year. So we're recording in 2021.
Wow.
Cam says, I only heard of the CES letter and read it this year. Coincidentally, also the year I left the church.
What do you know?
Thanks, Cam. Sam is saying I didn't hear about the CES letter until 2020. So that's like 5 years after it was created. And it's just amazing how much control the church has on people's mind, their behavior, their information,
Their resources,
what they talk
yeah.
about.
That's crazy.
Because the CS letter has done massive damage to probably hundreds of thousands of people's testimonies. So the fact that somehow the church can just still keep that from people is really it really is mind-blowing. Jonathan Anderson writes, if something is true, you'll be encouraged to read opposing views, find out for yourself. Yeah, so like if you believe in evolution, you're like, yeah, read the critics, see how silly and dumb they are, and then read the science and figure it out for yourself.
Draw your own
Feel
conclusion.
better about it.
Someone who believes in evidence is not afraid of crackpot opposing views to the evidence.
So true.
Jonathan goes on to write, if you're being manipulated, you'll be discouraged from any outside review, books, or works. And that's where Stephen Hassan's it's called the bite model.
Yeah, bite model.
They control the information so that they can control your thoughts.
Is that the cult
behavior?
thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
behavior,
the bite model,
information, thoughts, emotion.
They basically control your behavior by controlling the information you receive so that they can control your thoughts and manipulate you with emotion so that you never would ever think, you would never even learn about the existence of the CES letter, such that you would never, of course, then never read it. Or if you did hear about it, it's that evil Jeremy Runnels wrote it. He was a bad person.
Such a bad guy.
He abused people. And so, he was excommunicated. So definitely don't read that.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was just going to see. Anyway, so So LC writes, didn't find the CES letter until I started looking for other answers to questions. Brian May, who I think is the guitarist for Queen, so it's super cool that the lead guitarist for Queen.
What?
I'm kidding. I think that's
his
made it
name,
big.
isn't it?
What?
That's his name, isn't it?
I think I was joking. I was saying the lead guitarist for Queen is listening, Brian May.
Awesome.
He writes, same 2020, yet some of my siblings had heard about them much earlier and didn't think to share. Yeah, so that's another thing, even within families, you can learn about very troubling things, but you wouldn't dare tell your spouse or your siblings or your
That's where
parents.
we're at with my family.
Yeah. But that's all fine. I'm not even beating up the church. This is just the way it rolls.
No, yeah.
And so
I get that.
So anyway, so back to your mission. So
the only thing I have left to say is that I don't want to go into too much detail because a lot of it's not my place to disclose. But I was in church one day. My mission president and his wife texted my companion and said, we need to speak with Thomas alone. And they came all the way out to my area, brought me into a different classroom, gave me some news about my family. That was very traumatic. It was hard for all of us, the whole family. And I just remember being there with him and just bawling my eyes out. And that affected me a ton on my mission. This is part of why I love my mission president so much, because he was so kind to me throughout the whole thing. And I don't think I received special treatment because I really feel like he treated everyone specially. But he did help me out through some family trauma that went on that really I should have gone home for. I should have been there to support my siblings, to support my parents, and so we could work it all out together, to process it. But what did I do, John? I turned it off. I said, atonement, we're good. I'm here to preach the gospel. I'm setting an example for my family. And
It's just a test of faith.
it's a test of faith. This is where I should be. I'm going to use the atonement and feel better. But really all I did was just not think about it. I just blocked it out and I bottled it all up and didn't get to process everything that my family.
Were you calling home weekly by this point?
No.
Yeah. So
Weekly emails.
So for the most of the history of Mormonism, you were only allowed to call home twice a year, Mother's Day and Christmas.
Yep.
And otherwise, no one could call you, and you couldn't call anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I learned about the death of two of my grandparents weeks after their death.
I'm sorry.
While I was on my mission president's like, "Oh, I forgot, your grandma died. Oh, and your grandpa died too." Like it was this weird, like that's just because you could, and the letters took forever to get there in Latin America and. Email. We didn't have email. That's how old I am. But anyway, but just this idea of really traumatic things happen and you're not supposed to go home.
Yep.
Even if there's a funeral of a very close family member, you're not supposed to go home and you're not allowed to call home. So even when this traumatic thing happened, did you get to even call home?
No, I did not call home. I just did emails. Yeah, it was really hard. Once a week.
Yeah.
Yep. He gave me special permit. He gave me permission to read the emails beforehand, but that's it. And then the next week, I just kept up the normal correspondence. But so much of it was avoided. I think maybe they didn't want to bother me while I was serving the Lord, so I didn't get a lot of information, and it was really difficult. But one more. What was
I'm
I
so sorry
say?
that happened.
Mention that it's something that he should have had counseling for on the mission. And that didn't even happen, kind of just because it fell through the cracks.
Yeah, my mission,
which is insane.
I love my mission president again, but he later in my mission, he assigned me with a kid that was having issues, that would see a psychologist. And he was like, I put him with you because you had seen a mission psychologist as well. And I was like, what?
No,
I never saw a mission psychologist. He's like, what? I didn't set you up with that? And I was like, no.
Like, I've been fighting this by myself for a year.
So I was just kind of left, to process everything myself and to hide it and to, I spoke with my family a little bit, but it was all so centered on the gospel that I didn't get to have a normal human healing experience.
Reaction to it.
Yeah,
sorry.
I didn't have a normal reaction to it until after my mission.
And on the one hand, I'm really glad to hear you had a really cool, good mission president because we don't want to just talk bad about everyone all the time. In stories.
Honestly.
And when there's a good mission president, I'm happy that you had a good experience. Yeah. And it's fair to say that the church has changed this policy about calling home, where now you can call home once a week.
I think that's
but
great.
They only did that because we beat them up for at least a full good 10, 15 years. Talking about how cult-like that was.
It's scary.
That isolation.
That you could only call home twice a year.
Messed up.
And they couldn't call you. So the church did that, honestly, because we embarrassed them to the point where they had to.
Yeah, for sure. You were saying about good mission president. Honestly, most people and leaders that I dealt with in the church have been amazing. So it's literally the doctrine and the high up lies and secrets that they're hiding. That's what got me. So that's my mission.
You want to sing a song?
Yeah, I'm going to sing a song about my mission, if that's okay.
Tell us what it's about as you're getting set up.
Yeah, this song is called Dirty.
Okay.
It is called Dirty because me and my brother like to do covers. And we were doing a cover of Michael Jackson's Dirty Diana, if you know that song.
Dirty Diana.
Oh, yeah. And we were doing it. It was awesome. It was such a cool cover. And we were digging it. And then I wrote my own lyrics to it. This is called Dirty. It's about my mission and specific events that happened to me on and after my mission. My relationship, my kind of initial frustration that maybe some people didn't believe what was so clearly, true fact. Let me.
So this is Thomas Stokes as Big Crick performing Dirty about his mission.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sound like NPR. Am I pulling?
You sound fantastic, John. All right, here it goes.
Walking for the weak souls, they're the ones that need it most. Push them through the door and tell them everything you know. Save it in a black book, write it down and never look. Thinking about the past the way you know you never should. And only one man speaking, hush, don't whisper. And quiet, open your ears. I spoke with reason, and you won't believe it. Though you never did, we're all the same. Rob me of all I'm worth and more. I know who you are. And only one man speaking, hush, don't whisper. And quiet, open your ears. And I spoke with reason. And you won't believe it. Though you never did, we're all the same. So tell me who's to blame for what we all have made, because we're all the same. We're all the same, so tell me who's to blame for what we all have made, because we're all the same.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
Gotta
dirty.
Clap. We got to clap.
That one is on the EP. It's the first song of the EP. It's on Bandcamp.
Does EP have a name? Your EP have a name?
What?
Does your EP have a name?
Easy Way Out. Oh, the name of my EP is Easy Way Out.
Okay.
And it consists of 3 songs, all 3 of which I will be playing today.
And what were you trying to communicate with that song?
It's frustrating because I'm speaking with reason. I say, I spoke with reason, and you won't believe it. But then I say, though you never did, we never did, we're all the same. Kind of everyone believes what they want to, despite what the facts are. There's nothing you can do about it. In the verses, I mentioned walking for the weak souls, and how I was so pushy, push them through the door, tell them everything you know. It was all about just me doing what I was supposed to be doing, shut up and listen, one man speaking, hush, don't whisper, you know, general conference, church, mission. You're supposed to listen to your authorities, your leaders, and just the problems that has, you know.
Love it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, you guys have all been super patient. Cece, you've been extra patient because we've been focusing so far on Thomas's story, but you've
I
got a
don't
story
mind.
too, right?
I do, yes.
So now's the time to turn back to you, and we want to hear your Mormon story.
Yeah.
So anything you want to say before we jump into that, or should we just jump into your story?
No, I think let's just jump in
All
and it'll
right.
come together hopefully as we go here.
Okay.
So my background, I was born in Green River, Wyoming, and then my parents got divorced when I was 5. At the time, I had 3 older sisters, and we moved to Star Valley, Wyoming. So I am Wyoming born and raised, lived there my whole life. And the divorce was ugly, which I think shaped us in a lot of ways. And I think that plays a part in how some of my family decided to stay in the church and how some of us didn't. For some of my siblings, it was a really great source of comfort and a way of healing, which is great. I think that's the case for a lot of people, Thomas's family included. And so, we always try and respect that, even if it's hard to not have our feelings completely understood. And so we got up to Star Valley, Wyoming. My mom's parents, my grandparents, they were Mormon at the time, and so we started going back to church with them. And again, I would have been very young. I do remember a little bit of primary, but not a ton. I think I have the same problem as Thomas, where some trauma leads to gaps in your memory. And so all of that is a little bit hazy to me, but I do know that we would go to church with my grandparents, and that's actually where my mom met my stepdad, her second husband. And a little bit of context, he's just dad. He's raised me since I was 5, and he really took all of us under his wing. So moving forward, I'll probably just say dad, but I do mean stepdad. And they met at church, which is really great. So I'll always be grateful that we were attending at that time because, they got married. He started to take care of us. They actually have 2 sons together. So I have 2 little half brothers with a 12-year gap between me. I was the baby for 12 years, and then I got booted. And our attendance was definitely a little bit more spotty growing up and going through high school and whatnot. Like I said, I had a couple of siblings. My eldest sister specifically, she's still in the church with her husband. We didn't mention this.
We will.
We
We'll
will?
get there.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't want to jump ahead either, so I'll back up. But my oldest sister, she is still in the church. They live in PG, so we see them a lot.
Pleasant Grove?
Yes,
Utah?
Pleasant Grove.
Okay.
Yep. And we have a really good relationship with them, but she is the only one that I would say is still 100% in and involved. And that was all through my childhood, that she was really the steady one. And then me and my 2 other older sisters were kind of problem children,
Rowdy.
if you will.
Which to
Yes.
Mormons can mean something very different than to people never raised in the
That's
church.
Yeah.
So when you say,
Yeah, it's
when
so
you
funny.
say rowdy and, what do you mean? By Mormon
Normal.
standards?
Yeah, like in my case specifically, it just meant having, I had a lot of boyfriends going through high school. I was always interested in boys and sure of myself as far as like sexuality goes, which I know is something that you're supposed to oppress and kind of, keep that down until you're married, right? And so right off the bat, I would say starting in my teenage years, that set me apart from, your typical Mormon. I would definitely say Jack Mormon is the term we want to use when it
just
comes
want
to
to highlight,
explaining me.
you really, I've never heard it driven home so clearly and impactfully. You're basically saying that to be an Orthodox Mormon is to be suppressed and oppressed and sexually dysfunctional.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
to be
dysfunctional is a
a
good word.
well-behaving, Orthodox, healthy Mormon, and to be a bad Mormon, to be a fallen Mormon, to be a Jack Mormon is to own your sexuality and to
Yeah.
have a healthy relationship
sure of it,
with your
yes.
body and your sexuality. Is that what I
Yeah.
heard you say?
Yes. Yep, that's it. You nailed it on the head. So
I don't mean to be rude or glib, But I really do think there's something to what you just said.
Oh yeah, I'm very
Something
passionate about it.
actually
I get
real and powerful.
Can I just say, like, I thought I was so good and perfect, and like looking back, I was so repressed. It's undeniable. And Cece
you
tells me
behaved
stories.
well,
I behaved well, but
but-
Cece tells me stories all the time, and I'm like, that's so healthy. Like, you had that. You were able to talk to your mom about this stuff, and like about sexuality and growing up, and where I for me it was like you better not think about it.
You're really not supposed to delve into that world
Yeah,
until you're married.
Don't even go there. Yeah.
But then you're with your spouse who, if they were raised the exact same way, it's just a mess because neither of you guys know what you're doing, right? And so...
But that wasn't you.
No, it wasn't. And I got to help Thomas through all that. So...
In other words, Thomas lucked out. You maybe not so much. At first, at least. Anyway,
Yes.
well, sorry.
There's a learning curve.
I'm jumping ahead. There's a learning. I'm jumping ahead.
We'll get into
Sorry.
all that too. We'll give you all the details.
Not
all the details, but-
Every single one of them.
So yeah, going through my high school years, again, I use the word rowdy, but I think to anybody outside of the Mormon community, it was just normal teenage behavior. I never got
So
into
you
too
mean
much
dating,
trouble.
making out with boys?
Yeah. I was not afraid at all of, physical touch. And again, I didn't really get too far into sexual relationships until I was out of high school. Like even as a teenager, I was like, I don't really want to go there. I feel like I'm too young. But I was always
Very mature for her.
Yeah, but I
She's
was
mature.
at least not afraid to date, hold hands, make out, touch butts, all of that. Not a big deal,
Whoa.
right? And so a little bit of background. I feel like a lot of people in Utah know of Star Valley because it's not that far. We're right on the border. But we
It's kind of a heavily Mormon part of
yes, that's what I was going to say. It's like the
Pioneer-
mini Utah of
Yeah,
Wyoming.
yeah.
And so
Star Valley, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
Star Valley, Wyoming. So I did still grow up kind of in a Mormon community. It was majority Mormons in my high school of, I want to say like 750 students. So small town dynamics kind of played a part in all of that. Small town Mormon dynamics. Like I did still get hit with, am I being judged? Should I feel ashamed? But luckily, I've always just had the kind of personality where I was like, I don't really care, a little bit rebellious. And so I think that was good for me that I didn't, I don't want to say fall into the trap because I don't think it's a trap, but it's just the way that you're expected to, feel if you are, again, a
Sinning.
normal teenager doing normal teenager things. But in a Mormon mind, a very Mormon mind, it's like, yeah, it's sinful, like you said.
Can I just say that one of the biggest attributes that I admire about Cece is that she does not care what other people think, and she is not afraid to live her truth. It's amazing.
Which is also very un-Mormon.
I've learned
Say.
so
That's
much
very
from her.
un-Mormon.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
And
crazy.
healthy. I love it. I'm jealous.
Oh yeah, I'm jealous
See, I'm
too.
jealous.
Thank you. It worked out because, yeah, we really balanced each other out when it came to all of that. So I got through my high school years and I started dating somebody pretty seriously.
Wait, somebody just made the comment, touching butts the musical.
Let's make it happen.
Thank you, Ace Trades.
I'll get to work.
Anyways, so So I started dating somebody pretty seriously. I want to say I was like a year out of high school. And at this point I feel like as soon as I graduated, I kind of crossed that line into like, okay, I'm ready to experience sex a little bit more deeply. Like for me, I felt like I was maturing fast enough. I've always been told that I act older than I am. And so I really do feel that as soon as I graduated, I kind of took that step. And so I started dating this boy pretty seriously. He was a few years older than me, and it was a short-lived relationship because it was not a very healthy relationship. But I did end up moving in with him about a month before we broke up and the relationship ended. And
Now that's after high school.
yes, this is after high school, but I was 19, so pretty young, pretty green.
Mhm.
And I know that my family had qualms with me moving in with him because that is a pretty big step.
And it's also very not Mormon, right?
Yes, yeah. And in hindsight, like maybe I wouldn't have done it. I really was just kind of diving headfirst into more adult relationships. But I've always been very fortunate to not ever feel ostracized by my family if they do disagree with me. My parents, Thomas mentioned that I've always been able to talk with my mom about anything that would be quote unquote sinful. And that's always been a big blessing. And then my parents were actually, I want to say, completely out of the church while I was going through high school. After my baby brother was born, my first baby brother, I think is when they really took that step of leaving. And I would have to verify all of this with them. I've never really sat down and had a conversation. And as a teenager, I just don't think I was paying as close attention as I could have been. But yeah, that helped a lot, that at the time that my brother was born and I was going into my teen years and I was getting a little bit more rascally, I still always felt like I could talk to them because they weren't holding me to any Mormon standards. They were like, we just need you to be safe, let us know where you are. But I never felt like I couldn't bring boyfriends home to meet them. Or if I did feel like I made a mistake, I was always able to be very open with my mom.
Like a healthy.
And I'm just so grateful for that. Yeah, I think that really helped.
Super healthy.
Moving forward, when I did move in with my boyfriend, that didn't change. That dynamic stayed the same. They maybe thought that it wasn't the best idea, but they supported me in learning because, I was starting my life and I was a young adult and they were like, okay, this is how it works. She's going to do it herself and she's going to learn and we'll just be there whenever she needs us, which was really amazing. And that goes for my parents and all three of my sisters, even my TBM sister. She, looking back, and Thomas has told me that while I was dating this boy, they had things to say and they were definitely uncertain, but yeah, our family dynamics are really admirable, I would say, in that at the end of the day, it's like you just need to show support. And we're all kind of mother hens, but it's like, let the baby birds leave the nest and that way they'll always come back to you. It's not like you leave and never see them again because you pushed them away. It's like we're all very, very close. And I think part of that had to do with my parents' divorce and part of that had to do with my parents leaving the church and again, not holding us to those standards and those expectations, because I feel like sometimes that instead of bringing a family together, that just like everybody disperses and everybody's driven apart from one another, So I was really grateful for that.
I love this. We're taking our time on this episode, but I'm not ashamed by it because this is important stuff. So I'm thinking about what I was raised to think is the ideal role of a Mormon parent. And I'm reminded of a marriage and family class I took at BYU by a man named Brent Top. Okay. And I remember him literally saying, he posed this dilemma to the class. It was, if you're a Mormon parent and you know that your daughter is about to have sex, what is your role? And he literally said that, and I don't remember the exact logic, but I'm guessing it had something to do with sex being next to murder in terms of severity.
Yep.
Because what he said is I would literally, if you had the choice between letting her go to have sex because you know that she's going to go have sex, or locking her in her room against her will, he taught that you should lock them in a room against their will,
keep them from leaving,
because there's no worse possible thing. And
Sounds
so
healthy.
when I translate that into even how I, as a super liberal progressive Mormon dad was with my own daughters just 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. It's like, you have a curfew. Where have you been? Did you get home late from your curfew?
Know everything,
did you have
right?
sex? Well, no, I didn't say did you have sex, but it's like, were you alone in a car? I was so terrified that my daughter would, make out or have sex. Again, even as a non-believing progressive liberal Mormon, that I really alienated my daughter, made her feel like she had to lie to me, made her feel shame to this day that haunts her. And that is what I thought was being the best possible Mormon parent. Your parents would probably be viewed by Orthodox Mormons as being the worst. What? You're not cutting off your daughter for moving in with a guy? She's shacking up. She's violating the law of chastity. and you're like talking openly about it, about like what you're probably talking about, like what's healthy contraception and what's consent and how to be safe. That's like the most from an Orthodox Mormon standpoint. That's the most
bad
irresponsible, bad parenting you can do.
Yes.
And I'm just here to say, I think I scarred at least one or two of my children around sexuality in very real and meaningful ways. You had the bad parents, and it raised you with a healthy view on yourself and your body and sexuality.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like I said,
do you think I'm overstating that, or?
No. We talk about this all the time as parents now. We're like, we cannot do that the same way. And I think part of it too is that my mom actually conceived my oldest sister out of wedlock, and she was, gosh, I want to say she got pregnant at 18. As a Mormon woman? I mean, she was raised Mormon, but
kind of the same.
We got lucky in my family that it went back at least 2 generations. My grandparents were also very understanding and chill. They might have not been as open about, talking about sexuality, but they, like you said, you with your daughters, I think they were able to not traumatize or scar their children when it came to sexuality.
Yeah.
Like when my mom got pregnant, it wasn't like, okay, you need to have an abortion or you need to, put this baby up for adoption. It was just like, okay, like you're going to be a mom now. And I love my grandparents. Yeah. And so I think that translated all through my mom's parenting. She was like, you know what? I did it. I might not recommend that you do it the same way, but I will love you no matter how it happens. My sister, same thing. She conceived out of wedlock. She's married now and they have 2 kids, and it's like, it's working. It works well. And it works well like that all the time. But, it's just, it's foreign.
Recently I've had so many people reach out to me to talk about Mormon adoption, because if there's a teenage pregnancy in Mormonism, historically within Orthodox Mormonism, there's this massive pressure to force the teenage girl to adopt, to give the child away for adoption, because I think the church likes supplying childless couples with children, and they believe that, quote, a father and mother should raise a kid. And so they've pressured tens of thousands of young Mormon teen girls to always give up their kids for adoption. And I think I've corresponded with several young women that wish they hadn't been pressured that way.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, because they make you feel like you just couldn't possibly do it well if you're not married. But it's like, it's not the case, especially if you are in a relationship with the person that you happen to get pregnant with. Even if you're not married, but you're in a healthy relationship, like, why couldn't you be parents? So that whole thing, that's really, it breaks my heart. But
one more thing, we have a comment from a listener. Sam says, also, it's very LDS to cut off family members if they do anything the church doesn't like. So in Orthodox Mormonism, if a daughter decides to go shack up,
probably would have gotten cut off, right? Yeah.
With her boyfriend and to be sexually active, there are family systems in Orthodox Mormonism where that daughter would be potentially cut off or ostracized or judged or marginalized or made to feel unwelcome in the family system.
We've been
Which
pretty
is just,
lucky.
I feel like that's the exact opposite of what you should do, like, okay, my child is going off and making these big decisions. I don't know if it's going to work out, but because you do have that hesitance, keep them close, make them feel like they still can come to you, which is what ended up happening. Like I said, the relationship did not end well. There was a lot of toxicity there. And so I did end up having a pretty ugly breakup. And I was just so lucky to have every single one of my family members to fall back on. Like, my brother-in-law drove up to where I was living with my boyfriend. He helped me pack all of my things in like under an hour. And then all the rest of my family was out of town, but they were in Utah. And so my brother-in-law drove me up to Utah, and everybody just like fell on me all at once. Yeah. And like, I just don't think I don't think I'd be here if that wasn't the case. I'd probably still be an emotional wreck, or I'd probably still be going through, boyfriends who aren't that good to me. But instead, it's like my family let me do my thing, And then when it did backfire like they thought it probably would, I didn't face judgment. I just faced a lot of comfort and support, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So
Not to say that, like, I mean, this is just me speaking from my experience. I feel like my family would have done the same thing. But
Yes.
as a whole, there are enough families in the church that would cut someone off for, like, there are plenty of good families out there, but the system does kind of favor cutting anything un-Christ-like out of your life. And that's an issue. That's
yeah.
all.
Yeah, I think Thomas, like he said, they probably would have reacted the same way with any of his sisters, but just because they weren't even raised with that same freedom, you could say, in the first place, it just wasn't an issue to start with.
Yeah.
But yeah, my parents were always
We're
like,
just repressed. That's how you keep them in line.
No,
just repress
whatever.
them.
So yeah, my parents, just one more time, I'll say it, they were so good about giving us freedom, and we were always welcome to come to them. I remember my mom, I think I got a UTI actually, and I don't know if it was from having sex and then not using the restroom, or if I'm just kind of prone to UTIs in the first place. And I knew that she had UTI pills, the antibiotics that they give you, because she's prone to them as well. And so I was like, Mom, I think I have a bladder infection, and like, can I have some of your pills? And of course it clicked right away. She was like, I know how you get UTIs. And I was like, yeah, but she, this is just an example. Like, she didn't withhold the antibiotics from me. She didn't like make me go into the doctor and explain myself. She was just like, okay, if this is what it is, I'll help you. And like, we just left it at that. And that memory just popped into my head. But that's like a really good example of
No
how
shaming.
my parents were always just willing to help. And I was always able to come back to them. So that's my teenage years up until, I want to say, I was almost 20 when I had my breakup. And I went up to Utah for about a week just to recover.
Oh, do we want to get into all the brisket fat story and all that, or is that not important?
I feel like we could maybe revisit that when we get into when we started dating.
Okay, cool.
Anyways, so I got up to Utah and I stayed there. I can't remember if it was over a long weekend or if it
Why
was...
Utah?
Because my brother-in-law drove me up there. This would be right after my breakup.
But why did you go to Utah?
Well, because Cheyenne called you, right?
Yeah, my brother-in-law and my sister, they were still in Pleasant Grove at the time. They've been there the whole time we've been in Utah. And they were like, yeah, come up with us. Like, we have an extra room. Stay with us.
Yeah.
And
Sanctuary.
And my parents were coming from a vacation in Arizona, and they were going to be stopping in Utah as well, just to visit the grandbabies and all of that.
Plus,
so
it's Zion. It's Oz, right? It's like Dorothy
Yes.
going to Oz.
Like, this is the perfect place to come.
This is the place.
So yeah, everybody was just going to be coincidentally convening there anyways for like family visitation and stuff. And so they're like, you need to come up and be with everybody. So yeah, I wouldn't say I got back on my feet. I think I spent most of that week like crying and distraught. And then from there, my third oldest sister, so the one closest to me in age, her and her husband and I want to say he was about 6 months old, were just moving up to Colorado. And it was about the same distance from their town to Utah as it was from Star Valley to Utah. And so Utah was just kind of the central hub. So they were like, hey, you'll be able to come back and visit often, but why don't you move up with us to Colorado? We have an extra room. If you want, you can get a job and you can like stay with us indefinitely, or you can just like recover and get back on your feet. So I was up there for about a month, and that's what I did. I didn't go looking for a job or anything. I just hung out with my sister, got a lot of aunt time with their baby. And then about a month after I was up in Colorado, everybody convened up there. My family likes to visit each other all the time. And so everybody planned a big family trip up to Colorado again. And my sister and her husband invited Thomas.
Yeah, because
so he enters the scene again.
Plot twist.
We didn't mention this. But
My oldest brother married her oldest sister.
yes.
So that's how we knew each other. We had known each other this whole time. We met at their wedding when I was 16 and she was 12. So we go to, my brother invites me to Colorado to hang out with them. And we I see Cece there. I see Cece there. And we hit it off. We've always been friends, but we just hung out that weekend.
Yeah. We've always had great friend chemistry. Like, obviously nothing happened when I was 12 and he was 16.
That'd
I
be
thought he was
weird.
cute, but when we first met at our siblings' weddings, it was just like, oh, you know, another friend in the family kind of thing. And then, you know, he was dating separately through high school. I was dating separately through high school because we weren't even on the same like timeline for dating in high school.
Everyone always joked about us getting married, but in my mind, I was like, oh no, she's not
Yeah.
active.
It was an ongoing joke in the family, but
Yeah.
it was definitely just a joke. Nobody was
I
like,
could never marry Cece. She
Yeah.
doesn't go to church.
yes. So I want to say Matt gave Thomas full disclosure for the Colorado trip that I had just gone through a really ugly breakup. And he was like,
Off limits.
yeah, like, don't even try and go there, which in Thomas's mind, I don't think that was his first
No, not at all.
plan of action anyways,
no.
but they just threw that disclosure out there, which makes me think that maybe they had a little bit of foresight. They were like, they could hit it off well, but she needs time to heal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when we reconnected
Yep.
and we
drove.
really realized that our friend chemistry was
Yeah.
strong. Like, we just get along so well. We can talk like friends. We can talk like partners. Like,
Like lovers.
And you're
it's
how
just so
old?
fun. Stop.
So-
I am
And you're
20.
how old at this point?
Oh, in Colorado, I would have been 20 still. Yep.
Okay.
or no, you turned 20. Yeah, that summer you
Yeah.
turned 20.
Really quick,
been 20.
something that we didn't ask about. Did you have hobbies or interests in high school? Talents, like things that got you excited, you know, pursuits. And I don't know if we even talked about your faith or your testimony. Let's
Oh
just say
yeah,
up
we
until
kind of skipped over that, didn't
yeah.
we?
Do you want to go back and talk about any of that?
Yeah, for sure. So because I was, again, kind of a Jack Mormon, I wouldn't say that I did have a very strong
Such
testimony.
an awful term.
Like, what? I don't know a better term, but
You're
that's
healthy, so
it. Yeah. Yeah. I just wasn't very
Because of-
involved in the
yeah.
church. My best friend was and still is very Mormon. She served a mission. But luckily I wouldn't say she ever tried to convert me. Like, we would go to church together sometimes. And I did go to seminary all through my high school years, but half the time I was like sleeping through the lesson. Like, I just wasn't ever super, you know, on top of learning about the church because it just has never really resonated with me. My sister and I did have primary callings, which was so fun. But I
In
think
high
that
school?
this would have been right after graduation. So we were pretty young, but
did you try to get a testimony in high school? Did you even care enough to try?
you know, I want to say no, but I feel like there were fleeting times when I was like, I should try. Like, there were times where I would try to read the scriptures, but I don't think I've ever made it past Genesis chapter 1 or
Didn't
like
read the Book of Mormon in high school.
No. And so I would go through phases also of trying to pray every night. And I do feel like sometimes, I don't know if I would say it was me feeling the spirit or if it was just, you know, now that we're both out of the church, I'd like to say that I'm more of just like a spiritual person. And maybe it was just like positive energy I was feeling. I'm a little bit more into that than like it being the actual spirit hand on my shoulder, like comforting me kind of
Ghost.
thing. Yeah. So I did go through those phases. And I remember one time I did ask my seminary teacher, I don't know if you guys know the book Me Before You. When it's a romance. They turned it into a chick flick, and it's about a
Quadriplegic.
quadriplegic
Yeah.
who falls in love with his caretaker, obviously, and before he met her,
Oh, I remember that movie.
Yeah.
before he met her, he
Yeah.
was like set on doing, what would you call that, like assisted.
Death by suicide or
Yeah.
Euthanasia?
euthanasia?
Yeah.
Assisted.
Because
Yeah.
he just felt like he had nothing left to live for, and then he met her, and he kind of went back and forth. But ultimately, at the end of the book,
Whoa. Spoilers.
should I not spoil it? I feel like I have to.
Is it
to
important
explain.
for the story?
I mean, it's like the entire ending.
Okay,
But
so
your
if you
story.
don't want to know the ending of
Me
Me
before you.
skip about
Don't
45
listen.
seconds.
Yeah.
45 seconds.
Essentially, it has to do with suicide, and you know, as a teenage girl,
And
this
trigger
book
warning, yeah.
just like
Oh, yeah.
yes. as a teenage girl, this book was just like so romantic and so heartbreaking. And so I remember asking my seminary teacher about suicide, what happens for people if they do happen to, commit it, and do they go to hell? I feel like that's mostly just the Catholic belief, or do they, where do they stand? And I can't even remember the answer he gave me. I know he told me that they don't go to hell, but you guys would know better than me probably what Mormons believe as far as that goes.
They've changed.
It's changed over time.
They used to say they would
It's
for
changed?
sure.
I'm so shocked. Anyways, and so I feel like that was kind of the cap for me, was asking like a few maybe kind of deep questions about afterlife, and then trying to be habitual in prayer and scripture study. But I'm telling you, it never lasted longer than like a month. And so it was just very sporadic, and I was never super dedicated to it.
Any worthiness, sort of discussions with your bishop, or any
this is another
guilt
subject
and
that I'm
shame
very
kind of
heated about.
stuff? Yeah.
So I never actually went into the bishop for any like confessionals, because even as a
Did
teenager,
you know you were supposed to?
oh yeah, because like I said, my best friend was super Mormon, and if she made out with her boyfriend and he like put his hand in her back pocket, she would go in. And if she's watching this, I want her to know that I love her to death too. But and for me, like, she would tell me that, like, oh, I just feel like I need to go into my bishop, and then I was over there doing a lot
little bit more.
worse without being
Touching
gratuitous.
butts.
Yeah. And I was like, no, I'm not going to go tell my bishop about this, especially because in a small town, I'm like,
business.
I'm like, half the time your bishop is also your science teacher. So then you have to like see him every day. And it's like, I don't know. And so I definitely had a lot of instances where I should have gone in by, church standards. I would have been in there probably every week though. And I just like from the very beginning, that definitely has never resonated with me to go in. I'm very big on therapy and counseling, and bishops are not therapists. They're not counselors. And again, I had my parents if I wanted to talk about something, and they were going to offer me a lot better advice and make me feel more comfortable than going into this random dude that
Again, I'm jealous.
Yeah. And so to answer your question, I had a lot of worthiness, quote unquote, issues, but to me, they weren't issues. It was just like, it is what it is, normal teenager behavior. So
Yet again, like the Orthodox Mormon would say, that's awful if you commit those
I was off the rails
sins next to
according
murder and you don't confess to your bishop.
Yeah.
You're horrible. What you had was just common sense to be like, it's none of his business.
Yeah, like
What
that
I'm
was
doing
not
is
going
my
to make me
business.
feel
I'm
comfortable.
healthy. And so you didn't get subjected to this massive shame spiral that like 500 of the people I've interviewed have all had to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
You were the smart, healthy one doing
you.
the things that were viewed by Mormons as being the worst possible things.
Can I also just say that during this time, I knew that Cece wasn't kind of following the path. And so I, much to my, shame, I had thoughts like that about Cece. I was like, oh, she's off the path. And I heard about her living with her boyfriend, and I was like, oh, Cece, what have you gone?
Just the
What have you done?
wild
She's a Jezebel. She's
Yes,
a harlot.
harlot.
Yes. Yeah. He would have heard about a
Harlots
lot
of
of stuff
Babylon.
because I know that my behavior was probably especially concerning to my oldest sister, who again is still in the church, always will be probably,
With my
and
brother.
was through her high school years. And so, yeah, I was just like the wild child, the baby sister that was like just concerning everybody. And so he would have heard about a lot of that to be sure.
Yeah.
Gosh, I had something else I was going to add and I forgot.
About
but
the bishop
yeah.
and interviews with the
Oh
bishop.
yeah, I was going to say I did have, I think the one interview I had with the bishop was for baptisms for the dead to go with the young women. And I lied through my teeth, man. Like even then I was like, I feel like this would be a cool experience and I want to go with all the girls. But even at that time, I think I was probably like 14 and I had some things that, wouldn't have flown to get into the temple, but I was like, no, I'm good.
She didn't
Let's go. Yeah. Nothing super egregious, but some of the temple questions they ask are pretty, by normal standards, it's just like fluffy behavior. But for them, it's like, oh, you can't enter the house of the Lord now.
And be shamed in front of all your peers and your parents.
Yeah. And so I think that was the only.
Even like simple things like the word of wisdom. They asked that.
Yeah.
I know you drink coffee and stuff.
Yeah. And so that was the only meeting I ever had with him, was to go to baptisms for the dead, which I did, and it was a cool experience, I feel like, but I guess I shouldn't have been there.
It wasn't weird? It wasn't weird for you?
No.
That's good.
So, yeah, that's about where I stood all through my childhood and high school
So you
years.
dodged the shame bullet, basically.
I did, yeah. I just refused to
Way to
feel
go.
shame for something that I knew was very natural. I was like,
Wow.
So
To a Mormon, that's mind-blowing.
I know it.
To me.
Thomas
I'm
was
proud
pretty
of-
mind-blown when
I'm
he
so
met me.
proud of you. I can't
Now.
believe Now I'm proud of
I bet
you.
you're an arrogant jerk about it.
Jeez. No, I
Yeah.
did. I had condescending thoughts
Yeah.
Oh,
about
yeah.
my wife. I
We-
mean, she wasn't.
Not when I was your wife,
Yeah,
but before
obviously.
we've talked about this, like I don't think he would have given me the time of day if he didn't already know me through my siblings, because when he was at BYU, he was dating so many girls,
Ugh.
trying to find the right wife by,
Yeah.
by church standards, and I was just like not that mold at all, cut from a completely different
Yeah.
cloth. But because he knew me, we started as friends, and then by that time, we'll get into it, he started to hit his faith crisis, and so he was like, okay, I can give her a shot, which I'm really proud. Really proud he got to that point when we started dating. So
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we are in the same place, same time.
yeah, yep.
And
I moved back to Utah from Colorado, and
Because you met him again, and you're like, hey, maybe I want to date him? Or
yeah, well, I was already planning on going back to Utah because
Yeah,
at that point
okay.
I was interested in aesthetics, and Utah is a really
What
great.
is that?
It's skincare.
Okay.
So I'm a facialist. And so I knew that Utah was a really great industry for it, or a good place to be in the industry.
New skin, creams everywhere.
Yeah, yep. Everybody wants to look like they're 30 forever. And so I already had it in my mind that I was going to move back, and we happened to drive back together to get him to a date, actually.
yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, and
Were you
then
jealous?
I know she was.
Yeah, I would say no, but I think I was because,
No,
like I said, I've thought he was cute since I was 12. And so I was like,
I was
I'm literally driving you back to go on a date with another girl. But
Yeah. The date was okay. The drive was more fun.
it obviously didn't work out.
The drive
so.
with you was way better than the date.
Anyways, yeah, so we both ended up back in Utah, and I started school June of 2018 while he would have been.
Okay, this is 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're married
Sorry.
with a kid.
Sorry,
know.
I just realized how this is only 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we're
All right.
fresh.
Yep. we are.
Sorry, keep going.
No, we're good.
So yeah, I started aesthetics school June of 2018. All through that summer, or not all through that summer, about mid-July is when we started to act more like boyfriend and girlfriend, and decided we would like to be boyfriend and girlfriend.
July 14th,
Yes, he's really good with dates.
2018. When we
Okay.
kissed.
Yeah, and that was a
Alright.
really good summer. Thomas calls it the summer of greatness
summer of
because
greatness.
he found his hobbies that to this day have helped him with his anxiety and his depression surrounding the church. He got into mountain biking, canyoneering. He's a nature guy, and so we just had a really, really good summer.
And he got together with you.
And it was
Yeah.
literally the summer of greatness.
It was,
And
yeah.
I broke my collarbone that summer. Also crazy.
Mountain biking?
Yep.
Going over your handlebars?
The bike came out from under me like this, and then I landed on
Oh,
my shoulder.
yeah.
Bam. Just snapped it.
That was
totally.
actually the same weekend.
That was the day
kissed
after
for
we
the
kissed.
first time. Yeah.
The only reason she stuck with me because she felt bad. I was a
No.
cripple, and she was like, I have to
No.
take care of this guy.
It was a little interesting to start a relationship that way. But
Yeah.
It was fun.
So that summer kicked things off with my faith crisis, everything. Backtracking very slightly, did you have something you wanted to say? Or
I want to talk about courting before we
Oh.
talk about the faith crisis.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Go ahead and go
Yes.
to where you want to
yeah,
go.
so
That's
this is before we
interesting.
started dating because this is big. But I did start to have more doubts because I took the Foundations of the Restoration class fall
Who
of.
was that? Who taught that?
Oh, I don't remember his name.
Was it Fluman? It wasn't Spencer
No,
Fluman?
he was a younger guy, bow tie.
Okay.
Looked like what is it? James Corden? Is that the guy?
Okay.
It looks like him. Yeah.
Okay.
I
right.
forgot his name. But fall of 2017, took that class. That is when I learned even more about church history, caused more doubts to surface. I started freaking out a little bit, but still kept it on my shelf.
And on the timeline, you wrapped up that class the fall before we started dating, right?
Yeah, that winter in that, yeah.
So all
mean-
through that first summer, he was already kind of like, some of this isn't sitting right. And then he started dating me, And he was like, "Oh, you seem like a good person, but you don't follow the rules at all. So
It didn't
where's
make
the
sense.
truth and what is the truth?"
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Okay. So, I mean, this next segment was kind of your segment. And I guess I I like to follow the timeline. So, in addition to anything else, Thomas, in addition to what you just said, I don't want to give short shrift, CC, to your story, but now so it looks like your timeline's merging. So, Thomas, is there anything else you want to tell about coming home from your mission?
Yeah.
And
Real quick, I can
other than just that class,
Yeah.
that is important to the story to then once we start telling the story united. Does that make sense?
I got back from my mission and I knew I had to choose a major.
Did you feel like it was a successful mission overall?
Yes, I felt great about it.
You felt great about it. Were you
Despite my
zone
doubts.
leader? Were you like?
One thing my mission president stressed was how unimportant callings are. And
You don't like to talk about it.
I mean, I trained twice and I was a district leader for 6 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Not a ton.
Okay. So like
but frankly, it didn't
living
matter.
like, the Elders Quorum president, sort of like high Mormon achievement. You didn't get the zone leader AP.
I did not. I couldn't
distinctions.
care less about that.
You didn't care.
I did not care.
You,
Neither
didn't,
did
you
my
weren't disappointed. You didn't.
Nope. Neither did my mission president, honestly. He was like he would put people in leadership positions, not because they were amazing, but just as an experience to grow. And like he would say stuff like that all the time. He was like, it does not matter where I put you. It doesn't say anything about how good of a missionary you are if you become AP or if you never train once in your mission, which again, I think is great.
Okay.
It makes us not arrogant.
You kept your head on straight pretty well.
But yeah, successful mission. I got back and I didn't know, I didn't get into the School of Music and I didn't want to audition again because I felt like it was my job to choose a career that would provide for my family. I had to follow the mold. I had to get my 4-year degree, find a job, get married, have a kid, be stable. And so I chose the Spanish translation major, which it got me the job that, a job after college, and I'm grateful for that. But I feel like I gave up on my music dreams for good. Not anymore, obviously. But I gave up on my dreams for a while there and just chose a major that, was okay for me. And
Would provide for family.
and that would provide for family, which,
Because you have to hurry and get married and have lots of kids.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, he was looking. He was
Which was-
like, I need to start.
Yeah. So yeah, dating at BYU was rough. Didn't have a lot of success. I had a couple girlfriends, but none lasted too long. So yeah, that's I'm good. That's all I need to say before we actually started dating. And my
You worked
faith
in
crisis.
elevator maintenance
Oh
at
yeah,
BYU.
yeah, best job ever. I did elevator maintenance at BYU. Yep, very fun. Got to see a lot of cool parts of campus, underground tunnels. I was in the elevator shaft. Super dangerous and sketchy. We did things that we were not supposed to do. But yeah, it was just a fun job.
And just going back to this Foundations of the Restoration class, were there any specific teachings there that caused you to doubt that you want to talk about?
That's when I learned more about seer stone and the translation process.
Tell our listeners what that basically is.
Yeah. So
What you're taught and then what you learned.
Yeah. So on the mission, you were taught, or not on the mission, but growing up, you're taught that Joseph Smith used the golden plates to translate the Book of Mormon. You would see pictures of him in church, studying character to character, having a scribe write it down. The plates were visible. He had the Urim and
Egyptian,
Thummim,
yeah.
which was a pair of spectacles that were with the plates. And he used that to translate, and that's what we were taught the whole time. On the mission, it got brought up for the first time that he actually used the seer stone to translate the Book of Mormon, which was a stone he found digging a well, I think. And so he believed that stone, or claimed that stone had magical powers, would use that stone to go treasure hunting, to find treasure for people. They would pay him, and he would say, let's go find some treasure with my seer stone. They wouldn't find anything. And he got in trouble for that. I think it was in 1826, he was charged with disorderly conduct. And so that whole treasure digging eventually evolved into him using that same seer stone, quote unquote, to translate the golden plates. And that, I didn't think a lot about it on my mission because it didn't go into that much detail. But in that Foundations of the Restoration class, we went into detail. I learned a lot about it. I learned about the magic worldview of Joseph Smith's family and the surrounding community at the time. I learned about, to me that was just kind of troubling because my professor would just keep making apologetic answers and excuses to why it was totally normal for Joseph Smith to do that, and it was fine. Didn't sit well with me. They glossed over polygamy. We spent like a day on polygamy, and he was like, "Oh, and it's not important. We don't know a lot, and that's all you need to know." And I'm like, "How? This is Foundations of the Restoration, and you're making apologetic excuses for all these troublesome things that went on in church history." So that really bothered me and kind of kicked off my faith crisis. But I was doing my best to hold it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always wondered about that because in addition to the church releasing the gospel topics essays, they started incorporating some of these historical issues into their curriculum for seminary and institute and for BYU classes. Yep. Mm-hmm. So it's always made me wonder, I would have always guessed, and it's been confirmed, that what this does is for many, it may inoculate some where they hear just enough to feel like there's nothing to worry about. Yeah. But it may spread the disease for others, kind of like a truly dangerous. Like we talk about vaccine injury. I don't want to like bring in a totally different subject here, but like if the church was thinking about the gospel topics essays as like a vaccine to inoculate people against the disease of doubt, the gospel topics essays actually did cause real vaccine injury for many in terms of spreading the doubt.
Exactly.
And that would have also happened with the CES courses and religious curriculum. Yep. And that's how it was for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It just caused your
just
doubts
made it
to be worse.
And there was I remember there was like a really radical girl who had like, I don't know how she had dyed hair at BYU, because you can't have dyed hair, right?
Don't know.
I
haven't been there in a while.
Anyway, she always was like challenging the professor and like, you could tell, I think she was just like a closeted Exmo or something, but she would like ask questions and challenge him. And then it made me like think, I'm like, well, she's got a point.
You should be asking questions.
Yeah, she's definitely got a point. Yeah. So I took that class. It ended. I shut it all away again. I didn't want to open it back up.
Turned it off.
Turned it off.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So then you guys met. You had the Summer of Glory? Or
Summer of Greatness.
Summer of Greatness. You're dating. Okay, I was going to ask about that. And maybe if you want to save this to later, I'm dying to know. And again, this is I'm going to put on my Orthodox Mormon cap and ask this question. Okay. So you've stayed pure and white and faithful.
Chaste.
Thomas, you've stayed chaste.
Yes.
And you're stooping to date a girl who has been sexually active and who has committed the sins next to murder.
Just the worst
and
of
has
people.
been red as scarlet. As the Old Testament, we were taught, though your sins may be red as scarlet.
Yeah.
She was red as scarlet.
Oh, yeah.
You're stooping to date. And I hate all this rhetoric. It's gross, especially as we tried to highlight you were actually the healthy one, Cece.
I was horrified about it.
But yeah, you're dating the harlot who's red as crimson instead of white as snow. And you have to, now you had already tasted of the fruit, which is most precious and desirable, Cece. And you guys are dating now, and you're like, man, I kind of miss some of that stuff. It was actually fun.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not asking for lurid details, but I am curious what that,
we'll go there.
What that dynamic was like when you want to talk about it.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's a good time to jump into it because it was pretty early into our relationship that I was like, okay, how are we going to navigate this? Because however long we're going to date, I don't really feel like I should have to suppress feelings that I've always found natural and that I have, fed regularly for the last couple of years,
And I was like, she just doesn't get it.
Yeah, and I think that obviously scared Thomas, and we had to have those conversations like, okay, how are we going, like, are you going to, I don't know, like, how are we going to meet in the middle, basically? Because I wasn't wanting to give up my lifestyle. He wasn't wanting to give up his lifestyle, and that was a definite roadblock. And so I feel like we just kind of coasted through that.
Yeah.
avoided that elephant in the room through the first summer that we were dating because we were just having a lot of fun getting to know each other as
Things
boyfriend
weren't
and
getting
girlfriend.
heated.
No, I mean, we'd make out,
Yeah.
but nothing crazy.
Yeah. And then
But the stakes were higher for you, Thomas, because in theory, if you don't lie at BYU, then you're under the honor code and you could get kicked out.
Yes, I
So
was
see,
very
you're-
aware of that.
You're in you're in beauty school or whatever, and say it again.
aesthetics.
Aesthetics. You're in aesthetic school. The stakes aren't as high for you.
Oh yeah.
I
No,
could get
there's no honor code. They don't care what you're doing outside of school.
I was I just kept going back to that Sunday school lesson about the truck driver. I can drive this close to the edge, and the other truck driver was like, "Well, I can drive this close to the edge," and then the third one was like, "I drive as far away from the edge as possible because I don't even go there," and I was like, "I'm the first guy." I was like, "What am I doing?"
Like I'm driving
I
close
was
to
so
the edge.
scared. My parents were. I lived with my parents, and so they were like,
Oh, yeah.
"Thomas, be careful, be careful, be careful." Every day, like every week, I'd get a "Be careful, be careful."
Yeah, his parents have definitely never made me feel judged. And I know that I fit right into their family and I have amazing in-laws. But when we were dating, I know that they were so worried about me being promiscuous and, dragging Thomas down
Corrupting
that road
their
with
son,
me.
their pure son.
Yeah, they were worried about that. I remember one time I was just like, I think he was sitting on the couch and and we had just been like play wrestling or something, like not even approaching anything.
No, I just had my hand like this.
No.
What? Wait.
Okay, I guess we have two stories
Okay.
if
This
we want to
happened a
hear
lot.
them. And I think I was just like straddling him and we were just like playing or whatever. And his mom did walk in on us to tell us that dinner was ready. And then later he told me that she'd pulled him aside after I'd left and she was like, "Are you guys, I kind of walked in on an awkward position where
Like
you guys."
clothes on, but you were just being
No, yeah,
playful.
no,
Oh
we were
yeah,
just
we
like,
were literally just like we hadn't even been kissing or anything.
No,
I
we were
think
just
we were really
wrestling,
just
like, just
playing,
playing
like
around.
children
Yeah.
would. And I ended up on top, and she happened to see that, and she was like, "Oh, are you guys
Bad
being
timing.
safe?" It was bad timing, but
that's
so
the word
I
they
know
would
all
use.
through our
Are you
relationship.
being safe?
Yeah,
I'm
and I'm like,
But they
I
don't
can
mean
teach
use
him
safe.
how to be safe. Like, what
Yeah,
does
they
that
don't
word
mean
even
are you using protection. It means
Yeah.
are you keeping the
Like,
spirit?
Staying away from
safe
the edge
means
of the
two
cliff.
different things for
Exactly,
us, and I was
yeah.
like, I can, yes, we're being safe, but
What was the other story?
yeah.
We were sitting on the couch, and if you can see on the video, my arm was like right here, like kind of on her
A
armpit.
little too close.
Little too close.
for
And my
comfort.
dad, after she left, my dad was like, "Thomas, I noticed your hand was really close to her breast." He's like, "You need to be careful." And I was like, And then I hadn't processed all my family trauma. And so my relationship with all my family members was like, there was a wall there. And so how I would cope with it, I would just say, "Okay." And then just not. I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry."
That was another obstacle that we had to
people pleaser
overcome.
ever.
Yeah, because I've never been that way. I've been rebellious from the start. And so that was something that I would just get so triggered by him, like kowtowing almost. I was like, why can't you just like, you don't want to just like constantly be causing waves if you don't need to. And you don't need to be like creating contention if there's no need. But I'm like, say what's on your mind or say what you're feeling or like stand up for yourself a little bit.
No way.
So yeah, we had to overcome that too. And he's a lot better now. But he's always just been so chill in his personality that while he didn't know how to express to his family that he was leaving the church, it turned into like really bad people pleasing.
Yeah,
And I was
super
like, dude,
bad.
you're getting walked on.
Yeah.
But
So because of whatever traumatic stuff happened while you were on your mission, that left a family dynamic where if your parents gave you guidance, you just said yes.
I just said
whatever you
yes,
say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was
You
very
would
much a wall.
shut down
Yeah,
inside,
yeah.
and that was sort of PTSD symptoms in your mind.
I
now?
guess so. Like when I started therapy, it all made sense, and I was like, "Oh, that's why I felt that way."
Now looking back, what were you doing psychologically?
I was protecting myself and the view that I had of my family and my life, my perfect life before my mission. I was trying to preserve that. I was trying to still be that good boy. I was trying to tell myself that that's still how my life and my family life was.
Even though you knew something dark had happened.
Yeah. Even though I knew that there were issues that my family went through that I totally missed.
Okay.
Totally missed.
And I feel like your use of the term good boy, I was actually going to say something that adds to that, and it makes sense. I feel like you would almost revert back to being a young adult or a child who did need your parents to tell you, like, you
was
know,
a good boy.
kind of keep you on track.
Oh, okay, yeah.
With your people pleasing, I mean, it was like he would literally, like you said, you're trying to preserve that image of your perfect childhood and family life that you had, and it really was. And so I'd have to tell him, I'm like, you're 20, how old are you?
I would have been 23.
Like, you're 23 years old. You don't have to just like accept what your parents are saying to you anymore, which, you know, that can start at any age where you start to kind of question that, and a little bit of defiance is healthy. But I'd have to like constantly remind him, like, you're in college, you're an adult, like you're figuring yourself out, and their guidance only needs to go so far, and their advice, like you can set boundaries there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that you said that, I think, because I feel like you really would just try to be a good boy again, like 11, 12 years old, you know?
I was trying to, yeah.
So,
Yeah, we had a comment, and this isn't to bag on your dad, but the comment from Sam was, "That's creepy that the dad said that," referring to what he said when your arm was over his shoulder. Yeah. And I was going to say, that's not creepy, that's Mormon.
No, yeah, I didn't find it creepy at the time.
That's what Mormons parents say to their kids.
It was just, I mean, I need to recognize that it all comes out of concern.
Yeah, of course.
They're great parents, and I love them still, and my relationship with them has only gotten better.
And they've just been, sorry, real quick, not to interrupt.
Concerned. Yeah.
It's just you're taught as a parent, I think, to overanalyze your children's actions, and that comes with noticing where their hands might be, and like, not that you're letting your eyes drift in a negative or, again, creepy way, like the comment said, but yeah, when you're outside of the bubble, it's like, okay, why do parents notice that? Like, is that not kind of odd?
It's because they were concerned about me. They didn't want me to break the law of chastity. And so
it's like you have to watch every
so they were
movement like a
me.
hawk.
Yeah, they wanted to keep me safe, which I can't blame them for that. I was raised
didn't work according
That's
to their
job.
plan.
That's what Mormon parents are supposed
Absolutely,
to do.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your kids from having sex.
Exactly.
Keep them pure for the temple.
Yeah. Look out for anything that would maybe lead to inappropriate actions.
Yeah, most definitely.
Even if it's just a hand on the shoulder.
Okay, so at first that was not a big deal to navigate, you're saying.
No, it was hard, but we just kind of skirted around, and I stood my ground and didn't let her.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't pressure him as much at first because I
don't think you ever.
I did try to see it. I feel like I got kind of pushy. I did try to see it from his point of view. I'm like, okay, I have known really Mormon people, and I know exactly how he's been raised, and this is totally foreign to him, and I know that he thinks that this would be like one of the worst things he could do. This could just end his world if we were to take anything a step further. And so I feel like at first I did try to be really patient, and I was like, sometimes I would get frustrated if he would like cut us off from making out or something.
I had a will of
but I wasn't,
iron.
Yeah, he was so strong. And at first I was like, okay, you know what? That's fine because I'm stubborn. So I was like, if he's going to be stubborn, you know, I'll back off a little bit and I'll be a little bit more patient. But then eventually my stubbornness came through. And I'd been wearing on him. And so it did get a little bit harder. Gosh, when would you say?
Well, after my faith crisis, honestly. After the initial realization.
Yeah, because he realized that he didn't believe a lot of what he'd been taught, but he was still clinging to this idea that if he did, he just had so much moral conflict. Like, he was constantly just like, if I do this, am I a bad person? Like, what happens to me if I do this? And I was like, you have to realize that you're one of the kindest people I know, right? Like, it doesn't matter what we do. I mean, yeah, I married you. And so, like, I just constantly had to reaffirm. I'm like, it doesn't matter if you do this one thing just because, you know, even if it was drinking coffee, I'm like, coffee? You're still an amazing person. And you like, it doesn't matter what you ingest. That doesn't change your moral compass. That was really interesting.
She was pressuring me to take a sip of coffee. And this was after my faith crisis, after the realization.
Let's not jump ahead.
Sorry. Okay.
So, I want to hear that story. But I just want to note one thing. So when I think about your typical story, CC, for people I've interviewed in the past and people I've talked to, it's like, had your prodigal years as a teen or as a young adult, but for those who do go through the repentance process and the shame cycle with the bishop, then they're like, okay, I can't be dirty anymore. I can't be bad anymore. I need to become respectable.
Like I'm fresh now. I got to stay that way.
I'm going to become over righteous. And like, and if they like, I'm thinking of Hallie Everett, she goes to BYU and she's like, now I'm going to be super righteous.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to be pure and I'm going to be that good girl. That's not you. What's unique about you is you go to Provo, you go to Utah, but you're like,
I'm right in the thick of it.
You're right in the thick of it, but you're not taking any of it super seriously. And you still have a sense of confidence about who you are. And you're trying to be respectful of Thomas, but you're not feeling all this guilt and shame and trying to be perfect and trying to be the model Mormon girl.
No.
You're more saying, hey, I've got needs too. Okay, you be patient, I'll be patient, we'll compromise. But you're not behind the 8 ball of trying to be little Miss Molly Mormon.
Yeah, no, I definitely
That's
didn't.
a different dynamic.
Yeah, I didn't budge. I mean, we started to go to YSA together, and we did all through our dating life.
And marriage, much of marriage.
Yeah, but again, even then, there were little things. Like, we'd be late almost every Sunday because I wouldn't have something that was appropriate enough to wear. I mean, it was, and I would wear it, but I'd be like, okay, my skirt isn't touching my knees. Like, is this okay? And that would make us late because I would just be, I'm stubborn in my ways. And like we've discussed, I didn't change myself to fit the mold better, but there were little things where you
were worried about being judged.
Yeah. And very rarely that came through because we've made it pretty clear that I don't care that much what other people think about me. But yeah, I did try to be understanding and going to church with him and trying to immerse myself a little bit in his lifestyle just to see if I did have a change of heart, which ultimately, here we are, I didn't, and Thomas did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is an interesting dynamic that I didn't just immediately decide to change because I felt like I needed to in order to be a better girlfriend for you.
I'm glad you didn't change.
I knew that you would, I don't want to say I knew that you would come to terms, but in my head I was like, you know what? I'm fun the way I am. Like we can have fun this way, so I'm not going to like just completely change my entire personality.
Yeah, nor should you have.
Okay, so we're about 2 hours and 40 minutes in, and what I'd like to do, we talked about having a part 1 and a part 2.
Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do, let's think for a second about how you want to wrap up part 1. What I wanted part 1 to be about is everything kind of leading up to where the faith crisis starts to become really serious. Yeah. So I think we've kind of done that first part at least. What else do you want to do to close out this part of the story? Then what we'll do is we'll take a quick break. And then we'll just start up part 2. And for those who are watching us live, we'll start up the live stream again in 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll just keep going.
Sounds good.
But what else do you want to share about your stories prior to the faith crisis, and then the marriage and coping after that?
I would say that.
And is there a song you want to share to close, or do we want to save that for the beginning? Also,
let's do the song to open part 2 because it's all about the initial faith crisis. I just wanted to say that we had kind of reached an equilibrium. My beliefs were shaky, but I wanted to stay in. Her beliefs were very strong, but she liked me enough to, be okay with it. We were being good. We were keeping the law of chastity. We loved each other. And yeah, that's just where we were.
So my question is, like, if I'm also just channeling Orthodox Mormon brain, which you and I both had, right?
Yes, I get you.
It's you want to marry the girl that's the return missionary, who's super faithful, who was Relief Society president, who was virtuous, who, came from a model Mormon family, maybe even has general authorities in her line, like whatever it is, just the BYU queen sort of thing. Right. What was it that made you want to, again, like drive your truck close to the edge and be willing to date and consider for marriage And again, I hate the way I'm talking about this, Cece, and you're being so good-natured by smiling because, you know, there are lots of Orthodox Mormon parents. Like if I'm thinking about you meeting my son or daughter, I'm like, Cece, she's got the right upbringing that I want my kids making a lifelong commitment to in terms of perspective and health and confidence and those sorts of things. But if I'm channeling my Orthodox Mormon brain, it's like, this is risky. This is you driving. This is, again, you driving your truck too close to the edge. Mm-hmm. So as we close, I guess I'll ask you both. Thomas, what made you willing to date Cece and consider her for marriage, knowing that she had such a spotty, checkered, dark past from an Orthodox Mormon perspective? And Cece, I'll flip that. What made you open to marrying a nerd and a geek and a boring square?
I didn't have a beard at that time either, so I looked like a noob.
Like, why would you want that mess in your life, right? Why would you marry some cool, healthy guy who wasn't wrapped around the axle?
My mission president always said, don't marry a project. And so I was like, I'm dating a project. But I was willing to continue because I had never...
You did see her as a project?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, isn't that so cringy?
It's messed up. I mean, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to convert her back. Like, I knew that...
But you did mention the conversation you had with your parents where you...
I said she was willing.
Tried to comfort them that I was willing to go to church more and that you were like working on it.
I comforted my parents by saying that Cece was willing to give it a shot and that she wanted to go to church with me and learn all this stuff.
Oh, good.
They're like, all right, that's enough for now. But I continued, despite the fact that I was worried about my eternal salvation because I had never loved anyone so deeply and had never gotten along with anyone so well and meshed with someone in every single aspect like I have with Cece. And I knew her from since I was 16, and she's always been a good person, a fun person, and just like friends, you know, we were already really good friends. We had already had so many amazing experiences before dating. Like we went canyoneering once, and we just had the best time ever. And I was not about to give that up because I had gone through breakups. I had gone through kind of prudish Mormon girls already. I had gone through people, that, hurt me. And I was like, if that's what that dating scene is like, I want this dating scene because I feel loved and I feel good. And that's like, even despite the moral conflict, I was like, I feel better than I ever have. So that was powerful to me. I was like, that's got to be love. That can't be Satan deceiving me because I feel nothing.
It could be.
It could be, right?
Satan's a good counterfeiter.
I felt nothing but love, Like even during her hardship with her breakup and my faith crisis, I felt nothing but love. So,
I mean, before we jump to you, Cece, I'll just say that I've already highlighted all the ways you've been remarkable so far in your story, Cece. Thomas, I'm really happy for you that like you had the presence to say, I'm going for friendship. I'm going for emotional intimacy and connection. And frankly, I'm prioritizing my own health and happiness over these gospel teachings that I still believe in at the time.
I can't believe I was able to do that.
But that maybe you were sensing you shouldn't follow slavishly. Maybe.
Yeah. There was something stronger.
Sure. Something stronger. I can't believe I was able to do that. But that's
pretty cool.
What love
does. Remarkable.
That's what love does, man.
Most people don't do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's one. This is a story I've never heard on Mormon Stories before, and I'm loving it. Oh. So I'm super excited to see what happens next. So Cece, why were you willing to marry or consider marrying a Mormon square?
Nerd.
I think
a prudish, tightly wound.
Yes, he was. He's very tightly wound. So like he said, we just had so much fun together. And I've mentioned that our friend chemistry first, before even having a romantic partner chemistry, it was just as strong. And so, in the same way that you wouldn't give up on a friend, even if it's hard for you to like continuously have to coax them, I was like, why would I give up on, someone that I could potentially marry? Like, that's even more important, I think, is to not give up on your potential life partner. And so a small percentage of it was just that challenge of keeping that friendship and keeping him in my life because I liked having him around. And then another big part of it is that he mentioned this. He was extremely patient with me while I was going through the aftermath of my last breakup because we started dating like 4 months after my breakup, which is so soon. And I feel like for the kind of person I am, I would never have done that otherwise. He just happened to fall perfectly into my lap, and he was so kind, and he helped me through probably the darkest time in my life. And so I was like, okay, now he's going through his own dark time. I think we can make this work because we've already established that, you know, we care a lot for each other. And like Thomas said, that counts for something, to just like feel that caring and that kindness, even if you know that you have a really messy road ahead. And so I'd like to think that I just had a lot of foresight. Like I would just imagine our lives, because I knew that he was not steady in his beliefs at all at this point. At this point, I'm like, he's more out than he's in. So if I can be patient with him and if I can wait for him, I really do see us living a life that I imagine. And I wasn't trying to just like pull him away. We forgot to mention this, but when he told me that he was having questions about his faith, I was like, you need to be sure. And so it definitely wasn't a matter of me being like, oh, I want to like pull this boy away from everything he knows just, you know, for the pleasure of doing it. It was more of like, I just had foresight and I was like, I really do think he's going to come away on his own and I can wait for him to do that. And I'm going to be so happy when I do, like high risk, high reward kind of thing. So
yeah, we'll talk about the plunge into the rabbit hole part 2, but I love you. Yeah. That was so sweet.
I love you too.
That was sweet. Yeah, and in all fairness, we're hard on the church sometimes, hard on systems, try not to be hard on people. But, you know, even Richard Rohr, the Catholic, sort of progressive Catholic priest, has said that there's kind of first half of life and second half of life. And the first half of life, let's just shorthand, it's getting you to adulthood. Mm-hmm. Even Richard Rohr in the book Falling Upward says that Mormons do first half of life better than almost anybody. And so, you know, you got to, you know, Cece, I'm thinking about you. You've got this guy that's served a 2-year mission, speaks a foreign language, has spent a couple of years trying to serve and love and help other people. He spent his life trying to learn how to be a good dad and a good husband and to be generally honest and kind. I mean, that's not so bad.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's definitely so
things.
much that we disagree with in how Thomas was taught. But, you know, we'll say this until the day we die, that the gospel does teach good things as far as, you know, sometimes as far as morals, it's like, okay, you're taking that too far and you're not, you know, morally corrupt if you don't do this thing. But as far as family life goes, like, yeah, I knew he would make an amazing husband and an amazing dad because I saw his brother doing it with my sister, but also just because that is one really beautiful silver lining of being raised in the gospel, is that it's like, for the most part, I know sometimes you still get dud Mormon boys, but for the most part, he was just raised to be a really kind and good person. So I was like, yeah, I can, like, he's going through it right now and it's kind of frustrating. And sometimes we would get annoyed with each other, but I was like, you got to keep that end goal in mind. Yeah. So
I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, we've got a really good audience in our live stream and they're making great comments and it's great engagement. So I'm really sad to stop the live stream now, but we need a break. It's almost 3 hours now. It's like 1:30 and we may grab a tiny bit of food or go use the restroom or something, but do not go away. I will create the second live stream in just a second. And for those of you who are joining us asynchronously, listening or viewing after the fact, all you got to do is just go right on Mormon Stories, right next to part 2 of this amazing episode with Thomas and Cece, but you go by, I mean,
Sierra is my real name. I go by Cece. Yep.
So just click on part 2 of this amazing interview with Thomas and Sierra Stokes, which is also kind of subtitled Healing Through a Faith Crisis Through Music. And you will get to hear 4 more of Thomas's amazing songs. Now, Cece, do you sing, and do you ever sing backup to Thomas?
No, yeah,
What the
no.
heck?
We're a really good match, but that is one thing we do not have in common.
I always told myself I would marry a musician. Did not happen.
No,
She has a nice singing voice.
I mean, I'll like sing along to his songs at home
She
and stuff,
sings
but
well.
don't ask me
She's
to
a
sing on the
musician of
podcast.
soul, not a musician of.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
She's a musician of wisdom and strength.
musician of something.
Plays the heartstrings.
She's a musician of your heartstrings.
Exactly.
I love it.
I'll take it.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for part one. I've loved it so far, and I've done 1,500 hours worth of this stuff, and I'm still loving it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're excited for part two. Don't go away. Come right back for part two of this amazing episode with Thomas and Cece Stokes. I will just quickly say, normally we have Kara Brell with us here today.
So
normally super bummed. She's sick. She has laryngitis.
Oh,
And she
okay.
couldn't make it. So I'm here running the studio alone. But Kara, we hope you feel better. Hope you heal and get better, because it's not quite as fun.
Yeah, we want to meet you, Kara.
in the studio. What's that?
I said we want to meet you, Kara.
So I don't even know if she's watching. She's hopefully home getting rest and feeling better. But Kara, we love you. Hope to see you back here in the studio soon. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So for those of you who are ending part one, email us at mormonstories@gmail.com with feedback. Thanks to all of you who donate to Mormon Stories and the Oba Stories Foundation to make this possible. If you're not a donor, less than 1 out of 1,000 donate. That's fine if you can't afford to support us. We want to give this content away for free because we just want to help people. But if you do value this content and you're not a supporter, we're always losing donors every month. We need to replace them. So please consider becoming a monthly donor today at mormonstories.org. Click on the donate button, and you can help us continue this good work for as long as you're willing to support it. So thanks, everybody, and see you right back for part two of this amazing episode with Thomas and Cece Stokes. See you guys soon.
Bye.